Welcome everyone. How about we get started? I'd like to, my name's Karen Redmond, I'm the Mayor of the town of Gawler. I'd like to welcome everyone here this evening and anyone watching on YouTube. Firstly, I'd like to acknowledge this land that we meet on tonight is the traditional lands for the Kaurna people and that we respect their spiritual relationship with their country. We also acknowledge the Kaurna people as the custodians of the Greater Adelaide region and that their cultural and heritage beliefs are still as important to the living Kaurna people today. So, roll call. Now, I believe Councillor Shanks is beaming in, but he's not here yet. So I'll have him down as apology, and once he beams in, we'll change that, Kate. Yep. Are there any motions to grant leave of absence, councillors? There be none. I have no leave of absence or non-attendance. Public open forum. Is there anyone who wishes to speak to council on a matter? No? That's a shake of head. Thank you. There are no deputations. Declarations of interest, councillors, on matters that we're dealing with this evening. None. I'll move. So we've got. I'm using two agendas at the moment, so it's a bit confusing. Right. So now we move to our. This special council meeting has been called to deal with the agenda items from the 24th of November. And what I'll do, councillors, is we'll pick up where we left off, which is item 11.6 on page 55 of our agenda, general rate remission update. So, Mr. Horwood, you were the author of this report. Is there anything you want to add at this stage, Paul?
Thank you. Through you, Mayor Karen. Hopefully the report is fairly self-explanatory, but I did just, I guess, want to take the opportunity just to reinforce a couple of the comments made. Members may recall early in the piece, the proposed funding pool was considered at $250,000 prior to adoption of the budget, based on feedback we had received, particularly from the commercial sector and the Gawler Business Development Group. The feedback from that process, Mayor, was that $250,000 wouldn't be enough, and it was subsequently then increased as part of the adopted budget to $530,000. I do want to stress, as we've commented in the report, Mayor, that the scheme was very heavily promoted in all forms of social media, in the paper, and yes, as we've noted in the report, ultimately ended up with 88 applications which have been processed, and council obviously needs to turn its mind now relative to its consideration of the unspent allocation funds for the program, and there's a series of recommendations included in the report, but happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Got questions, elected members? Is that what you've put your hand up for, or you wish to move a motion? Councillor Cody Davies.
So the version I'd like to move is the second version of option 2, that the funds be provided as a one-off rebate of $40 to all ratepayers.
Do you want to speak to that?
Yeah, look, this is something that, look, I think this was a good cause. I'm glad we could help 88 people. I do think, you know, some of the feedback I did get during the process was that it was a bit, in terms of restrictions, it made it a little harder than needed to apply, and I feel like that's shown in the way that we got about 500% over budget for that. So I think that is something that we should look at if we do this kind of thing in the future, is just, I guess, just dealing with layers of bureaucracy and that sort of thing. But it is important that we provided it, and it's good that we helped those people. And I think the sort of, you know, honest thing to do, considering we specifically had this fund as a for this purpose is to return the rest of it to the ratepayers.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Hughes, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, just agree with Councillor Davies. We did raise this extra money for that reason, so I think it's fair that it goes back. Normally, I'd think it would be really important to pay down debt and look at the contributions as well for any other funding, but I think we did say we've raised the rate for this reason, so I think we have to be transparent in that way, so I'm happy to second.
So I'll just welcome Councillor Shanks to the meeting. So Nathan, we're on page 55 of the original agenda, and we've just had a mover and seconder for, you've moved 1 and 2A, that's correct? Yeah. Okay, so 2A and B, is that correct? You've got that up there, Kate? 2A and B? Yes. And not the or. Okay. So welcome, Nathan. Yeah, so we're just up to page, we've just had a mover and seconder. The mover and seconder have just spoke. Okay, open it up to the floor. Councillor Tooley, you've got your hand up.
Yes, thank you. I had my hand up immediately. Mr. Horwood said invited questions, but you obviously didn't see me. My question via you to Mr. Horwood is, in his recommendation, does the rebate of $40 completely negate the 2.5% rate increase?
It's 450,000, so usually it's 200,000 for 1%. So that equates to a 2.5%.
Has Mr. Horwood changed his voice?
No, I'm the chair.
He asked
with all due respect, I'm the chair.
With all due respect,
and your
I had my
question
hand
is
up
to
at the
me.
beginning.
Your question is to me, and I'm
middle.
answering it. And I'm just going to clarify that with Mr. Horwood, but thank you for your question. So, Mr. Horwood, have I got that right?
Through you, Mayor, if this recommendation was to go through, essentially as we've noted, the 80,000 has already been allocated by remissions. The remaining 450,000 of the 530, from a budget perspective, will essentially bring our net increase in general rate revenue, excluding growth, to 0%.
That's correct. So, thank you. Did you have another question?
Yeah, because that didn't answer my question.
Yes, it did. You asked if it equated to the increase, and it does.
In the recommendation, Mr. Horwood, you talk about it in Part B, the 40% discretionary general rebate provided above will negate the average 39 general rate residential increase. Now, my memory is that increase was 2.5%. My question is, and I want to be clear, and I did think that's the whole idea of making decisions as councillors to know what you're voting on. So I am trying to find out whether that means that equates to a 2.5%
yes,
increase.
That's what was just answered. So the answer is yes.
Mr. Horwood, is that
no,
what you say?
If the question is
Thank
to
you.
me. Thank you.
No, it wasn't, Mr. Horwood.
It's actually through me, so thank you. But thank you for your question. Any other questions? Any other statements for or against? Do you wish to speak for or against?
Yeah, I wish to speak.
Thank you.
Now that Mr. Horwood has nodded, and I acknowledge him letting me know the answer to my question, because I wanted to be clear, we increased the rates by 2.5%. We argued that that was justified because we were going to offer some support to people who were struggling due to COVID. We know that the CPI, which is often used as an argument for increasing rates, CPI has been well below 1%. In fact, in the last quarter, the CPI dropped below into negative territory. And we know that there was a lot of argument and debate in the chamber as to whether we would or wouldn't put the rates up. Many councils didn't. Many councils put them up by much smaller amounts. And we know Because if you're an elected member in touch with your community, you know that your community call out to you. And many members in the communities I explained at the time had said to me, Councillor Toole, you think 2.5% is cruel. They gave examples of where their partners had lost their jobs. And because one member in the household received an income, be it low, they did not qualify for any of the government support. And they were doing it really, really tough. So I was opposed to us increasing the 2.5%. This motion says to me that we had an intention to give support, we made it available, and a certain number of people took advantage of it, and we have a residue left over. And there were a couple of options provided to us. Could have gone back into rate revenue, could have gone back into just general revenue, paying down debt. It could have just in the first one sat there and waited and see if a second wave comes on. Point two, as Councillor Davies has presented, to me does seem to be a fair and sensible option. That what we're effectively doing, as I've now had it clarified, thanks to Mr. Hallwood nodding, we're now saying that by giving this amount back, we're effectively negating the 2.5%. So I think we've done two things. Number one, we have made an attempt to provide support. Some people have tapped into that. We have a residue. We're now honouring that residue and saying to our local community, we're giving that back. We don't need to charge you the extra 2.5%. And I think that's a very worthy thing to do. So it has my support.
Any other discussion? If not, oh, sorry, Councillor McCosh.
I've just got a question and then I'd like to speak. Through you, Mayor, when we look at the CPI, that's the general CPI in the Australian economy, and we look at our costs in the local government, is it a different basket of goods that we actually compare it to? For
Yes.
example, looking at the general CPI isn't actually the...
No, it's a supermarket trolley
Yes.
full of goods. That's what CPI is
Yes,
based
that's
on.
right. And
Yeah.
yeah. So when you compare the
It's
CPI...
not apples. It's not judging
No,
apples.
because it's actually looking at the cost of road materials, you know, all those other things,
It's
which
quite different.
tend to be a bit higher than what the CPI is.
It'd be a pretty big supermarket trolley.
Yes, that's the only thing I wanted to say. And then apart from that, I'm quite happy to support this because we did implement this rate increase to offset and offset the hardship that some members of the community were facing. Luckily, we found that it's not as bad as we thought. That it didn't turn out as bad as we predicted, which is very, very helpful and handy and nice to know in our community. So I'm quite happy to rebate this money back to the ratepayers. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, I'm happy to support this. The way it sits, it is important to note that we have been able to help 88 ratepayers with this direction. It is great to see that we didn't need to utilise all the money, and hopefully that does mean that our ratepayers are actually not doing it as tough as what we were first predicting. But this is definitely the right move. You know, we raise the rates to be able to help a lot more people, and if that didn't come to fruition, we should be giving it back. I don't know about the rest of the elected members, but there was some scrutiny that we did cop, you know, around raising rates in this time, which I can completely sympathise with. I know where everyone was coming from there, but we have done some good with it, and now it's just a matter of balancing the books and making sure that we give that money back. So I'm happy to support this. And yeah, we just need to be very clear that we were able to assist those 88 ratepayers.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Davies. You happy for me to put the motion? Or do you want to, you happy for me to put the motion? Lovely. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Yeah, that might be easier, Nathan. Just put your hand up. All those against, I'll just do that again. All those in favour of the motion, it's carried unanimously. Thank you. That one. And now we move to 11.8, Local Government Review Bill, and that is on page 67. Okay, so this is just, you happy to move that way? I'll see if I can get a mover and a seconder. You happy to move? Did you have your hand up, Councillor Davies, to second? Happy? You happy to move? Do you wish to speak at all?
All we're doing is receiving and noting the report, so yeah, happy to do that.
Councillor Davies, you happy to second? Do you wish to speak at all? Councillor Tooley, you got a question?
Yes, please. Through you to Mr. Horwood, who's the author of the report. I've had a look at the reform document at length, and it has come to us before. And my question is, given that the reform bill is quite extensive, why has so much of the sections in this report been related to behaviour issues, when so little in this report relates to the other reforms? For example, there is absolutely nothing in this report regarding the reforms regarding CEO salaries and external reviews. It's an extensive bill, but the report the office has produced is almost exclusively to do with behaviour issues. Why is that, please?
Are you talking about the summary report?
Yeah, the report that has been presented in the attachments.
Mr. Hall? I didn't think that was a major issue, but...
Thank you. Through you, Mayor. As you'll be aware, the two attachments are provided. One is the bill itself in totality, and the other one is the summary of major changes, as I've noted, as compiled by the LGA. As you will also be aware, I have provided some further commentary within the body of the report, and the main reason for doing that, Mayor and members, was simply from the fact that the summary of major changes by the LGA didn't necessarily, I think, cover adequately and sufficiently cover off on some of the changes proposed. So it was really just, I guess, a combination of the two to make sure that members were fully abreast of the potential changes.
Thank you. You wish to speak?
Yes, Mayor, I'd like to invoke Regulation 18, the tabling information, and request that the CEO table a more comprehensive document from the officer that actually is encompassing of a much broader range of the feedback on the regulations. I believe that the officer has narrowly focused on a section to do with
that's
behaviour.
Your opinion.
And
if I can,
I'm requesting that we have a more comprehensive
Regulation
report.
18 enables an elected member not to vote if a piece of information has not been provided. Every piece of information about this bill has been provided in the attachments. Your complaint or your concern is around the summary report, which just is a summary report. So every piece that is available to us has actually been provided to us. So I'm not sure what else can be provided, or because you don't like the report and you want it written in a different way, doesn't allow you to invoke Regulation 18. The report, it's about providing information that exists, not changing a report to suit you. So, CEO, I might just ask you to make a comment.
You did ask me a question, Mayor, and I'll answer it. The summary report is a skewed summary. It is a selective summary.
Well, that's your view.
It is not a comprehensive.
Well, it's not a valid reason to invoke Regulation 18.
On the CEO.
CEO,
there's no
if you could
summary
just
on the
provide some comment, please. Turn it on. There you go. Yeah, you could just. I just don't think that asking for a differently worded report is a valid reason for invoking Regulation 18. Because Regulation 18 is provision of information.
Through the chair, yes, I agree. The purpose of Regulation 18 is not to necessarily request for further information. It pertains to information that exists in its own right, not future reports or other reports that members might otherwise think necessary. So if Councillor Tooley thinks that he doesn't have adequate information, well, he can talk to the report. He can talk that the report not be received, and if other members also feel the same and they don't have sufficient information, well, that's a separate matter. But the application of regulation is not appropriate at this juncture.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Do you wish to speak?
Yes, and I want it noted that I'm not satisfied with that. I think I've been discriminated against. The reason is that in Regulation 18, you can ask for a complete report. And I'll say it again, the summary report is not a summary. The summary report, in my view, is clearly a selective report, because all it is focused on is cherry-picked out of the other documents, sections only that relate to behaviour. And any person, any reasonable person reading the full document will see the summary report is a selective summary report. Therefore, it is presenting information that is skewed or unbalanced, in my view. There is nothing in the report, for example, regarding the matter of rate capping. That matter was dealt with and it was mentioned in the report quite extensively. There's nothing in the summary that talks about all the issues regarding the changes for CEOs. In the regulations, and if you look at the document, it talks about proposals to cap the salaries of CEOs. It talks about mandating annual external reviews, and they'll be done by external operators separate to the council. And there are many other very important moves in the changes to the document. However, the summary in this document has focused on behaviour. So let's look at a couple of those things in the behaviour. You'll see in section 74 to 75, changes relating to conflicts. It's been narrowed to just 2. And we have to look to the LGA induction document, and we have to look to the Act to see what that means now that we only have the 2 categories. When you look at section 75E, it says that any behaviour support policy developed by a council must not be inconsistent with the behaviour standards and must comply with the behaviour standards of the prescribed legislation. (75E) means that the town of Gawler cannot create its own behaviour support policy, and it must do it in recognition of natural justice and the whole other range of policies. Procedure of meetings. The current rules and powers of the Mayor are perfect. The Mayor cannot remove anyone at any time, the Mayor can remove anyone at any time, but members decide what happens next, and that's fair and democratic. Under the changes, the new rule, it has the potential for the Mayor to remove someone for possibly a trivial matter. That happened to me once when I giggled. I was asked to leave, and I left the meeting at that point. And then the members decided it was trivial, and they brought me back in, and I carried on. No censure, nothing. That's a fair and balanced approach. However, if the Mayor does send a member out under the current proposal, then nothing can happen while the member is outside. Now, I think that's a very interesting point. I think there's 2 issues there. I think it provides for a Mayor powers that are potentially unregulated. And secondly, when the member is outside, nothing can happen in the chamber. I don't know if people realise that that's probably not a very good move, but that's in there. Section 6E provides the same democratic and fair protections that it is for the members, not the Mayor alone, who decides on a censure, exclusion or suspension according to the regulations. 262B, councils will have to be very careful with the development of a behaviour management code and comply with the regs and the Act. If they get that wrong, they're going to leave themselves open to an awful lot of more litigation, complaints, lawyer time, ombudsman time. 262C, the actions when dealing with a complaint. This will also need to be very robust and very compliant with the regs, behaviour, natural justice, etc. And we'll have to guard against trivial and frivolous complaints by scared, fragile, and weird little members. Because under those regulations, someone who's extremely timid, and I note that Kelly Jones told us in a finding, and I have it here, that elected members are meant to have a thicker skin than most. And elected members are not to be so precious, and they're most to engage in robust debate. However, what we find is that you can even mention someone's name like Paul, and someone will call a point of order, and they'll dob you in for the slightest little thing. And then you get the other case where people will blindly lie about you in this chamber and make allegations and defamatory statements, and neither of the presiding members
30
jump in to protect
seconds,
you.
Councillor Tooley.
Beg your pardon, Mayor?
You've got 20 seconds.
Thank you very much. So I don't know why, and I think we've been disadvantaged in our preparations by having such an emphasis on behaviour. I know why. It's strategic, and it married in with what was on the agendas for the 23rd and the 24th of November.
So time's up. Thank you.
And so
Thank you.
people
Any
need
other
to be
discussion?
very, very careful.
Thank you, Councillor Tooley. Any other discussion? Councillor Koch.
Thanks, Mayor. I'll be supporting this bill. I think it's a sensible way to move forward. Thank you.
Councillor Hughes, you want to wrap up? I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Councillor Tooley has called a division. All those in favour, please stand. Thank you, elected members. I'll call your name out. All those in favour are Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Little, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Samble, Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Ballalonga and Councillor Tooley. The motion is carried. Thank you, everyone. Oh, Councillor Shanks. Which way did you vote, Nathan? I can't hear you. 4? Oh, 4. Thank you. Thank you. The motion and all those, and that includes Councillor Shanks in that division. I can do it again. Sorry, Nathan, I'll do that again just so that we're all really clear. All those in favour, please stand. All those in favour are, thank you, Nathan. Thank you, Nathan. I'll call Councillor Shanks first. 4, Councillor Shanks, Councillor Davies, Councillor Fraser, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Koch, Councillor Little and Councillor Samble. All those against are Councillor Tooley and Councillor Ballalonga. The motion is carried. Apologies, Councillor Shanks. Thank you. Okay, right. 11.9. Periodic adjustment of council member allowances. Noting that this is externally set by the Remuneration Tribunal. Councillor Little, are you happy to move that way? Happy to second Councillor Hughes? Councillor Little or Hughes, do you wish to speak? No, no. Open it up to the floor. Councillor Tooley.
Yes, start with a question, please. Why is it that the Town of Gawler members do not receive the allowable additional small allowances that are allowed for extra duties, such as chairing certain committees, which would be something that's in recognition of the considerable extra load when those people chair those committees?
CEO. If you could provide a response. Thank you.
Councillor Tully did ask this question via email, which was responded. We have a council policy that prescribes that members don't receive those allowances. So council has made that decision
Thank you.
via policy.
Thank you. Yes, Councillor Tully.
Subsequent question. Can that policy be changed and how?
Any policy can be changed as it comes up for review. That's correct, isn't it? Yeah.
So can it be changed at any time?
As part of a motion or as part of the policy review.
Can the CEO please send me a copy or point to me to where that policy is? Doesn't have to do it now, but I'd like to know. I'd like to get my hands on that actual policy if I could, please.
No problem. Thank you.
Noted. Thank you. Can I speak to the...
Absolutely.
Okay. I accept that the allowances where you get the annual amount, as we see there, that is controlled by a tribunal. And I think everyone accepts that that's a fair way to go. What it doesn't do, it doesn't allow a council to decide itself that the mayor will get a certain amount, the members will get a certain amount. You could imagine if that was the case, that some councils may argue for much, much higher amounts. What you'll find, if you don't know already, is that there are tiers in councils. The Adelaide City Council is the highest tier, and I believe that the Lord Mayor gets about $180,000. It's about that, I think. And then it comes down to some of the larger councils. So I think that comes down then to Onkaparinga, and then you get to Clayford, Salisbury's, etc. I think we're about a tier 3.
Group 2.
So as you move down further, they're lower than that. Now, we just talked before about the legislative reforms in the bill, and that is because currently the CEO salaries are not regulated. And we've read in the paper an awful lot of criticism about the mega amounts that CEOs get. Now, the other things that, and this is relevant to the issue of the allowances, the other things that CEO gets and these executives get, that in addition to their very, very high salaries, they also get access to a range of additional allowances.
You've raised a point of order, yes? Yes. Could you turn your microphone on so we can hear what the point of order is?
The regulations to 2013-15, Part 5.
Sorry. Yeah.
The contribution to the member must be relevant to the subject of the debate. What Councillor Tooley is talking about has no relevance to this debate.
Just want to double check.
So it's regulations, Part 15, addresses by members, section.
Must be relevant to the subject matter of the debate.
I don't think it's relevant.
And what part of it wasn't relevant?
Talking about the CEOs.
Yep, I'm going to uphold that because what we've got here is the allowances for mayors and council members only. So I'm going to uphold that point of order. Councillor Tooley, if you can focus on the issue at hand, please.
Debate allows you to use illustration, connection, allegory, metaphor to illustrate the point. My discussion about their allowances is, if Councillor Koch had not interrupted me, was to go immediately to explain about allowances. I am talking about allowances, and that is debate. If we cannot use, to win an argument, examples, picture, allegory, and metaphor in our debate, then we are being denied the opportunity to debate. So I would ask that members overrule the Mayor.
So you can't, you actually can't debate your own overruling. It has to be put immediately. And it's actually the Chair that provides the statement, not you. So if you could stop talking, that would be greatly appreciated. So I'm just looking for the points of order. Here we are. So a member may draw attention You've stated the nature of the alleged breach takes precedence over all other business. The presiding member will rule. I've ruled an objection. A motion that the ruling not be agreed with must be moved immediately. You've moved that way. Do I have a seconder for that? Lapsed for want of a seconder. Thank you. No, you can't tell another elected member how to vote, Councillor Tooley. You do that quite regularly, and I think it's really out of order. Okay, so it's lapsed for want of a seconder. We will keep moving. Thank you. Now, any other discussion? Yep. If you could stick to the subject matter, that would be greatly appreciated.
The subject matter, Mayor, is allowances, and I'm illustrating my point when I say that elected members should get their allowances, and I use the example that executives and CEOs tap into allowances.
You could stick
and those
to elected members and mayors, please. Thank
Sorry?
you. You could stick to allowances of
No,
elected members
I have
and
to
mayors.
be able to use illustration.
No,
I'm illustrating
I've
the point.
upheld that point of order.
Then you're
and
gagging.
You're out of order.
You're gagging debate. No, I'm not out of order.
Gagging.
You're gagging
Just
debate.
stick to the relevant point.
I am. The relevance is that elected members should be entitled to get their allowances in the same way. CEO Nat, for example, gets $10,000 extra
What's your formal motion?
for staying late at meetings.
What's your formal motion?
That this motion be put.
That the motion be put. Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Samble. That is a formal motion. There is no discussion on a formal motion. This motion is that the motion will be put. No, you can't. No, stop. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against the motion, it is carried. I will now put that motion. All those in favour of the motion that Council notes the periodic adjustment and the annual Council members' allowance, all those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. Councillor Tooley is called a division. Councillor Tooley has called a division. All those in favour, please stand. Please stand. Thank you. I'll call your names out. Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Little, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Samble and Councillor Fraser. All those against, and Councillor Shanks. Are you standing, Nathan? You're for? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Nathan. All those against are Councillor Vallelonga and Councillor Tooley. The motion is carried. Thank you. Sorry, I will try and remember to look your way, Nathan. Thank you. Okay. That concludes that matter. Now we move to grants update, a very comprehensive report and recommendation. Thank you to Kirsty and David, your team. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes?
On reflection, I'm actually going to leave the room on the perceived interest as an employee of the Northern and York Landscape Board. I've filled out the form.
Thank you. We'll just make a note of that you've declared, perceived, and you're dealing with the matter by leaving the room. David, that's right? Yep. I'm allowed Councillor Hughes to leave the room. Okay. Councillors, we've got an officer's recommendation. It's quite comprehensive. You happy to move that way, Councillor Davies? Do you wish to speak at all?
Just to say that the council staff are doing a good job with the grants, and it's great that we've been able to get so many of them.
Thank you. Do I have a second now? Councillor Samble, do you wish to speak at all? Thank you. Any other discussion? Any other discussion on this matter? If not, Councillor Davies, you happy for me to put that motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. It is carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so thank you, David. We'll bring Councillor Hughes back. Shanks.
Mayor, I might need some assistance with this one, but I was just wondering if we could defer this item to follow a workshop regarding, current structure and meeting options and everything like that.
So you're wanting to move that we defer the matter?
Correct. And I know that you're looking for a date, but can we put in, it happens after a workshop, around this item?
So you're moving that way. Do you wish to speak to that, Councillor Shanks?
I would like to speak to it if that's all right.
Yep.
So the reason I'm moving this way is, firstly, we're at the end of November, and I've had some good constructive conversations with some of the executive team, and I think there's an answer to this problem. I think that if we're going to start debating this tonight, given the officer's recommendation, and given some of the options that have put forward, I think we potentially are going to miss an opportunity. And I think there is some conversations that need to happen early next year, to really delve into this, and see if there is some opportunity where we can pick up some efficiencies that I don't think we are at the moment. I just don't have all the answers, and I don't have an amendment ready to sell to elected members to push us in the right direction. I think that's what we could come to collectively in a workshop, and then revisit this when we come back next year. Because it's my belief that the way we're doing it right now is not efficient. But I am willing to share a room with my colleagues and the executive team and the CEO and yourself to really hash out why I don't think this is efficient, and listen to that discussion, and maybe come to some sort of halfway point that we'll see all elected members, getting what they're after.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davies, do you wish to speak?
Yeah, look, I agree that there are some questions that aren't just around how many times a month should we hold a meeting, but just around things like what kind of reports should go to committees and then be decided at that committee versus, what should come to council for a second version of the same discussion, and some things like that. I think we are currently, inefficient in a few areas that I feel like we are sort of, having the same debates multiple times or that kind of thing. And it really, this is, I think the fact of this motion coming to our third meeting for the month is pretty ironic in itself. It's clear that we've got something that we need to be doing. So I'm happy for that to be a more broad discussion about general factors rather than just being a direct thing about how many meetings a month we should have.
So we've got a mover and a seconder. Councillor Fraser.
I'll agree to that motion, but having mostly for the new members, having been on council before, I have already been through a workshop on this sort of thing, but then I understand that the new members coming in weren't there, they haven't been privy to that information. So I do think probably it's worthy to have another workshop.
Any other discussion? Councillor Toole.
Councillor Shanks, I'm sorry to put the death knell on this by speaking in favour of it, but we'll give it a go. Yes, I'm very much in favour of this. I've brought proposals to the Chamber before in discussions that we should streamline. This is our third meeting for November, at the end of November. There were other meetings earlier in November. We're going to move into an incredible number of meetings in early December. This crazy rush to get things through. And also, as we heard in some of the debate at the last meeting, some of the items that were cobbled together was extremely questionable. Why they were timed the way they were, why so many items were put together. The Thule Tribunal on the 23rd of November was just deplorable, and then it rolled on into the 24th. Unnecessary when you look at the dates, but it was done strategically around the decision, and the decision to bring the CEO's recommendation out of recommendations for committee and then dump it onto the 23rd. The whole thing is out of kilter. And as I've said many times, one of the streamlines is, and we're going to do it again tonight, we're going to look at items that come from committees like the IES and the CCS. And we're told that under their delegated powers that they're meant to deal with just the mundane, the trivial, under delegated authority, but important issues, meant to, doesn't always happen, but important issues are meant to come back to the full body of the council in recognition that not everybody sits on a committee and that the ultimate authority is the council. So we'll see a number of those come back tonight for decisions. The better way forward, I would argue, is that we do away with some committees. I would argue the IES, the CCS, that we do away with them. The matters that would be dealt with quickly by those committees will be dealt with very quickly by this committee. And the larger items, which we will debate for a second time, could be dealt with once. Dealt with at the council meeting with a meaty debate, and that's the end of it. Whereas what we have now is heavy, detailed, meaty debates at the IES and the CCS, and then those items come back for even more meaty, heavy decisions. So a reform is well overdue, in my view, and to do it after the opportunity to have a decent workshop where we get some voice, then that would make a lot of sense. And from that workshop, recommendations can come forward.
You can't give recommendations from a workshop. I'm sorry, that's a decision. I'm just
Well,
going to pull you up. And anyone who thinks that a workshop
Mayor,
is a decision-making body, it's not. So
Mayor,
just so we're really clear on that.
Mayor, yeah, I know you're clear on that. You're actually missing the point.
I'm not missing.
It's like a false equivalency or a straw man issue. You pick a little word. Of course we don't make decisions at workshops, all right? You've got to allow that sometimes when people are speaking, they're talking about the big picture. Don't narrow on the little trip hazard, right? That was a little trip hazard. Of course, at the workshop, we will discuss the issues. We have said many times, we've seen the executive members take notes. We've seen consultants take notes at workshops. They then go on and form into the debate and the decision where the decision is ultimately made at the council meeting. No one's going to change that, but this is what good practice is. I note that Prospect Council has a pre-council meeting to discuss their agendas. When it comes to the actual meeting, it's very, very quick because they've already discussed, opened up, and had a look at the issues. That's what a workshop will do. Sorry, Nathan.
Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks, you can close the debate.
Firstly, Ian, you don't have to apologise for supporting one of my motions, mate. That's yeah. Obviously, I will fully endorse that. I would also like to thank Di that she's made a very good point there. She's pointed out that the newly elected members weren't privy to a workshop about this meeting structure, the current meeting structure. I guess what this motion and why this report has come to the table the way it is purely because of a motion that I moved about putting an extra meeting in. Now, that motion was only to pick up some efficiencies. However, upon reflection, I don't know if I was clear enough on that, because you can see the facts and the data in front of us as a part of the report. The fact of the matter is we've had 10 special council meetings and 12 ordinary council meetings in 2019, 2020. Now, I don't know about you guys, but we also had a special council meeting last week. We're now having another special council meeting this week with an ordinary council meeting following the Monday night last week on the Tuesday. So we're getting a lot of meetings coming through. Now, if this is the status quo, if this is what we're going to be doing, then we need to start picking up efficiencies elsewhere. I can guarantee that I already know the debate that's coming when the CCS items come up. I already know it, I've already listened to it. But it is important for these debates to happen at our council meetings. there is no argument from me with that, because these are the ones.
You're frozen, Nathan. No, you're frozen.
Ones that people are tuning into. They want to be able
You're frozen.
to sit in the room with everyone that I had those constructive conversations with that you weren't privy to, and we can solve this problem collectively.
Okay. Are you finished? I'm not sure. Okay. You finished speaking, Nathan?
Sorry, I dropped out there. Yeah, look, I don't know when I dropped out, so I hope that all support this.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I'm going to put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to move on to appointment to council committees. So we do have a series. I'm going to take them one at a time. I think that's easier. So we'll deal with the first part, which deals with how to manage if there's too many people for not enough positions and we need an election. So I'll ask somebody to move that we have a process. Are you happy to move that way? Well, if I can get a mover and a seconder, and then I'll accept a question. So are you happy to move that way? Are you happy to second? Okay. You want to ask your question, Councillor Toole?
Yeah, because we're likely to vote, I would just like, for the benefit of all members, an explanation again what the preferential voting system means when there are 3 or more candidates. Can we just be clear, because we need to know it will affect how we rate number 1, number 2, etc.
Yeah. So Kate, Symes, if you just want a very brief overview of what a preferential voting process is. Thank you.
Yes, so the preferential voting system, obviously you will vote in order. If there's 3 candidates, you will number them 1, 2 and 3. The first votes, if there is not one past the post, if there is an even, it'll go to the second vote, which is then distributed back out, but at a lesser value. So that will then add for your second vote, will add to the first tally votes to then get a clear winner above it. So whoever you do put as your second vote, if there is not a clear winner at the first preference, it will come down to your second preference and then third preference.
Depends how many are putting their name forward for one position, for example. Sorry, Councillor Toole.
Get a further clarification, because I looked it up and I understood that preferential meant that, let's say there was 3 candidates. After the number 1s are allocated, there's clearly a person with the lower value. So they are eliminated, and their number 2 votes are allocated to the other 2 candidates. And that then would determine the clear winner based on the allocation of the defeated.
The one that's knocked out.
The eliminated, yeah. Is that not the way it works?
Well, that's what that's what you effectively said.
There can be 2 ways. It's either if there is, say for the 2 positions, if there is one person who is elected first, then their votes are distributed for then the second position. If there is no one that reaches the threshold, and unfortunately we don't quite get down to that specific detail given we've only got the numbers of 12 around, but such as for the local government election, there is either as a clear successful candidate is redistributed. If there is no successful candidate, then it goes to a candidate who is eliminated and their votes are then redistributed. So there is both components that can be involved in a preferential selection.
Thank you. So
it will depend on the circumstances.
Thank you. I'm going to keep this moving. Do you wish to speak at all to this motion, given you're the mover? Or, yep, you do wish to speak? If you'd just like to do that now, Councillor Tooley.
Yes, thank you. I think most of it is clear. And I think I've just heard two options. I'm a little bit unclear on that, but I think if we use the preferential system, you could have 3, 4 or 5 candidates. All the number ones are put there, and the person with the lowest number ones is eliminated. That's fair and reasonable. But so their vote's not wasted, the number two that they have on those gets allocated to the other. And then again, you look at them and you say, right, well, we now have another lower person, that's gone, and you redistribute those until you eventually have 2, and those are distributed, and then you have 1. So that's, I think, my understanding of the preferential system. And I think if that's how we're voting, if we do have any votes tonight, then I think that's going to be a fair and reasonable method.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Question? Yep. And then Councillor Davies.
If we go to a vote, this has to be a confidential vote.
Yes.
So how does Councillor Shanks vote?
Oh, that's been sorted.
That's been sorted.
That's
okay.
been sorted.
And just to clarify, the distribution, the second preference is half a vote, isn't it? Not a full vote.
I'd say so. Yeah.
So it's a half a vote.
Kate's nodding. She's nodding. Yes.
That's right. It's a half.
Thank you. And Councillor Davies, you had your hand up. Okay, no problem. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I had the same question there as Councillor Koch. Your answer was it's been sorted. How do I vote? Sorry, can someone just explain that one to me, just so I know?
So if there's an item, for example, in one, if you go for, say, Deputy Mayor, and there's 2 or 3 more, there's one position available,
yep,
and multiple candidates, and if there's 3 or more, we do a preferential count. Under that, it's first past the post.
So I understand all that, but on a technical level, how do I vote? Because I can't write on a piece of paper not being there.
I thought, Kate,
Yes, you'll receive an electronic ballot from Zoom, which actually the host, which is David at this point, will be able to see. So he'll be able to provide your ballot through to Henry Hill Tally.
Okay.
No worries. Cheers.
Thank you. Okay, any other discussion? If not, Councillor Tully, I'm going to put this motion. Okay, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so that deals with how we are going to do this, if we need to. So now we'll move to the first item. Now we've got a choice here. Councillors, which way do you wish to proceed? Do you want the first option or the second option? It's really up to you, Councillor Little. Do you? Yes?
Yeah, I'd like to have a change and move option 2, or the or options it says here.
Yep.
The main reason I want to do that is because it's we seem to be the only council in the state that doesn't have a deputy mayor, and sometimes when you do stuff relieving the mayor, it's better for the person. Classic example this year when I did the Australian Day ceremony, I got called acting mayor all the time, but on the paper it said councillor, and some of the people asked me in the photograph, why couldn't you have been the deputy mayor? It's just a matter of prestige, I think, when you do present the mayor.
So I appreciate you want to move that, but we need contenders for the deputy mayor position. So
that's it. Put up.
So, CEO, are you going to call for nominations? I might hand over to you as a sort of returning officer. You can call for nominations, and then I'll proceed with moving in second, and then we can see how many nominations we get. Do you think that's fair, Paul? Yep. Well, I'm going to hand over to the CEO, and he's going to call for nominations.
Yeah,
and then
you
we'll
just
go
said
back.
for me to do it, didn't you? Oh.
I think we'll call for nominations and.
All right, members. Well, as presiding, as returning officer, I'll seek nominations. Are there any nominations for the role of deputy mayor?
like to nominate Paul Little.
Paul Little. Do you accept that nomination? Any other nominations? Councillor Goldstone.
Nominate Cody Davis.
Cody Davies. Do you accept that nomination? That's a yes. Oh, Councillor Hughes. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Councillor Samble.
Do you accept that nomination? Councillor Samble. There are 3 or more, so we're up to preferential voting. Okay, Councillor Toole. Yourself, Councillor Toole. So I assume you accepting that nomination? Yes, that would be a yes. That would be a yes. Okay, so there's 4. Any other? Oh, CEO. Sorry, CEO. CEO. Just turned it off. Just turned it off. Sorry. Okay, don't touch it. No, there we go.
Okay, so we have 4 nominations, Paul Little, Cody Davies, Brian Samuel and Ian Tooley. So if members could fill out the ballot papers and I'll come around and collect them.
Yes, that is true. So each, I think rather than 5 minutes, because it will take all night, we won't get through, I think 2 minutes, thank you, Ian. So we'll work in order around the table. Councillor Davies, I'll go around the table, I don't think it really matters. Councillor Davies, Councillor Tooley, Councillor Little and Councillor Sample, 2 minutes.
So, look, I've been helping out over the past year. It's, I've probably presided over more points of order than most mayors, I'd say. So, I've got a lot of experience on that regard. This is just something that I've enjoyed doing, going to events, helping chair some meetings, and, I think it's, I've been enjoying it so far. We sort of had a situation with COVID where for half the year all the events were cancelled, so I didn't really go to that many in the end, but I've enjoyed what I have done. So, yeah, happy to nominate.
Thank you. Councillor Toole. Councillor Toole.
Thank you. Members, I have a lot of experience in leading large organisations, having been a principal for 6 years. And 3 years as a deputy principal. I have significant qualifications with 4 tertiary qualifications with honours. I'm an excellent public speaker. I have a deep and intimate knowledge of the Act, the regulations and the procedures. I'm freely available to deputise for the Mayor at short notice. In fact, in the 3 years as DP, I rarely ever knocked back an opportunity to help out and to represent the Mayor. I was an outstanding Deputy Mayor, always available. I never let the personal differences get in the way. I also always showed full respect to the Mayor and her position as I represented her in that role. Despite huge differences and factions in the chamber in the previous council, I was voted clearly 3 times to be the Deputy Mayor. And you might ask, well, how would Ian chair a meeting? Would he be fair? Would he be inclusive if he was chairing and acting on behalf of the Mayor? I would note that when I chaired the CCS for 3 years, there was no complaints, there were no points of order. I was inclusive of everybody despite the differences. And my focus is not on rules and regulations. My focus is on good decision making. And I treated everybody extremely fairly because my focus was on getting a good decision. If you vote me, I'll bring that experience to the role, and I would be proud to represent this chamber and this town as the Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Councillor Little. Your turn.
Like Councillor Davies, I assisted in the role that the IES chaired this year, which I enjoyed. a few challenging moments. The expertise I've got is the fact that in my role as RSL president the last so many years, I'm used to speaking in front of 4,000 or 5,000 people. I know how to communicate with people pretty well, and as I did in my past employment, I have, I think, the capacity of being fair, and I don't hold grudges. I view all things on face value and how they're presented. Doesn't matter which person is presenting them or what faction they believe they might belong to. So I would love to have the support of the council, so I believe I could work with the mayor, and I would like your vote. Thank you.
Councillor Sample.
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I thank Councillor Hughes for nominating me, and certainly at the present moment, council going through some tough times, and leadership is very, very important to support you as the mayor of the town. And I believe we've got a very impressive group of councillors here, and listening to Councillor Shanks tonight about the point of changing some concept of having meetings to make council business move along better. I believe that I can support that and support your decisions as the leading person as mayor, and I would look forward to holding that position if so the councillors wanted me to do so, but whoever is elected I will totally support at all times. Thank you.
Okay. Returning officer.
Yes, if members could complete the ballot paper, then I'll, once you've completed the ballot paper, if you can raise your hand, then I'll come and collect. Thank you.
A yes? No, we've got four people who have put their name forward. So you not only need to put 4 numbers, and not you vote against those names only, not other people, because they haven't put their names forward. Or you can, that's fine. If you only want to put number 1 next to one person, that's perfect, that's valid. Or just number 1 or number 2. Yeah, that's correct, isn't it, Kate? You can just put a number 1 if you only want to vote for one person, you can. Or you can put 4 numbers next to the relevant people. Don't put a number against somebody that hasn't nominated. Okay? And it might even be worth crossing out the other names if you know, it's up to you how you do it. It's really up to you how you do it. Comment of the night, it's like the Brownlow count. Has everybody handed their form up? Has everyone handed their form up? Is that a yes? I'm assuming it's a yes. Okay. Have a quick break while this is happening.
Okay, members, based on the vote taken, Brian Samuel was nominated and positioned as the Deputy Mayor.
Congratulations, Councillor Samble, and congratulations to everybody else who nominated. Okay, now back to you, Councillor Little. You were going to move that motion, and we now have the name of the councillor in the dotted line.
I'll just add Councillor Sample with that to the line. After I've had my speak before.
Okay.
And saying that, I'm pleased that we have a deputy mayor because it does have its advantages.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Did we have a seconder before? You happy to second it? Okay. Seconded by Councillor Fraser. Do you wish to speak at all? Any other discussion? Councillor Turner.
Yeah, I'll just echo the point that Councillor Little made. I would have voted or moved to have a deputy. I think it's been unfortunate that we haven't had a deputy for the last 2 years. And it also means where the two chairs of the two committees have done that exercise goodwill in the role. You'll note that the Deputy Mayor attracts about an additional $4,000 a year in allowance. And given that the amount we get as councillors is very, very small compared to the salaries of many in this room, who also tap into extensive allowances, the fact that the Deputy Mayor will get a small compensation is a slight offset for any extra work that they may do. As a delegate, that could include some extra travel, some extra preparation. So it is recognition of the workload. And it's the same way that I would say that the chairs of committees should most definitely get their allowances to offset for the extra work they put in preparing for considerable preparation, preparing for meetings and chairing. It is a heavy workload, and we're about to come into those sections now. We're about to nominate people. And it's just normal business to say, well, extra workloads deserve an extra allowance. Every politician that sits on a committee gets an extra allowance on top of theirs. It's just the way it is. It's fair and it's reasonable and it's in the legislation. So I congratulate Councillor Sample on the nomination. I'm sure he brings a lot of experience to the role. He's been a mayor before, and I'm sure that he will deputise admirably.
Councillor Kosh.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. Look, congratulations, Councillor Sam, taking on this role. The last 2 years, I think, have been a very good experience for councillors. I personally really enjoyed the opportunity to be the chair of the CCS committee and also deputise for the mayor. That gave the opportunity to go to different groups that I hadn't been before and get a better insight into those organisations and also the role of the mayor. So I thank the council for that, allowing me to do that in the first year. And I assume that the other two councillors probably, and even David, probably had the same experience. So obviously the councillors decide to move that way. That's good. It does provide somebody who's the focal point to deputise for the mayor, which is, I think, is good, I suppose. But just on the allowances, I think we're in a time where people are doing it tough and when we come to look at these committees, I think the amount of money that we actually...
Keep going, Councillor.
No, I'd actually like Councillor Tully to apologise for laughing at me.
You are interrupting, Councillor Tully. Can you stop laughing, please?
No, I'd actually like him to apologise.
It's insulting.
I'd actually like him to apologise to me.
Well, I can ask, but it's up to Councillor Tully. Councillor Tully, are you wishing to apologise? I don't need an essay. I just want an apology, yes or no.
I'll certainly apologise when Councillor Kosh stops vilifying me in this meeting. Another councillor stop lying about me. When that happens, I'll certainly apologise. But if you want,
I'm going to leave it there.
No, Mayor, if you want to throw me out for a giggle, please do it. You are welcome to do it. Regulation 29, you have the power.
Thank you so much. Okay, keep going, Councillor Kosh. Okay, if you can just turn your mic back on. Thank you, Councillor Kosh.
People need to be respected when they're talking and not laughed at and mocked, which is what happens a lot. So anyway, we'll be talking about the allowances. I actually think that people are doing it tough in the community, and we as councillors, leaders in this community, should be setting the benchmark where we don't continually go and get more allowances, etc., etc. Because I think that the allowances we get, I reckon, is adequate. So when we come to talk about that later on, I won't be voting for that, because I think we're actually taking this role on as a volunteer, I suppose, and I think we should be showing good faith to our community that we're doing this role not for monetary gain, but for the good of the community. So I'll just leave it there, but I will support this motion. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Any other discussion? So any other discussion, councillors? If not, Councillor Little, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so moving on to over the page, we've got the CCS committee. Any of us can go on that. I'm going to put my name up. Who else? Just if you raise your hands if you want to go on the CCS, I'll go around and we'll note Councillor Davies, Councillor Kosh, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Samble, Councillor Fraser and Councillor Goldstone and Councillor Tooley. Okay, we'll just add those names. So we've got Davies, Kosh, Goldstone, Tooley, Hughes, Samble and Fraser. Nathan hasn't got his hand up. I'm assuming you don't want to. Nathan's shaking his head. That's all good. So we've got Redmond, Davies, Kosh, Fraser, Goldstone, Tooley, Hughes and Samble. Did I miss anyone? Little? Councillor Little? Councillor Little. There you go. Okay. Councillor Shanks, I'm not missing you out. You're okay there? All good? Okay, thank you. All right, so we've got that. And we've also got, now, out of that group, is there anyone in particular who wishes to be chair? I have lots of hands up. You got in first, Ian, so are you happy to accept as a chair of the CCS? So the nomination's been accepted. Is there anyone else who wishes in that group who wishes to be chair? No? Okay, I'm looking for a seconder then to the motion, which is motion 2.1 and 2.2. And we include Councillor Davies. I think I saw you first, seconded by Councillor Fraser. Do we have a mover? Did I ask for a mover? No. I need a mover. Councillor Samble. So we've got moved by Councillor Samble, seconded by Councillor Fraser. Yep. And you put Councillor Davies' name in there. Okay. Yep. Okay. Any discussion? No, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Yep. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So that's that one. Now the IES. Sorry? Okay, IES, I'm happy to put my name up, okay? And I'll go around the table. Just put your hands up. Nathan, that's, I'll start with, we've got Mayor Redmond, we've got Councillor Shanks, then we've got Councillor Davies. It's the whole, it's everybody? It's everybody, all right. Yep. Nathan had his hand up. Now, with the chair, is there anyone who wishes to nominate? There's a nomination for Paul Little. Are there any other nominations? Just checking before we go any further. No? Okay, so we've got a nomination. Do you accept? Yes. So we've got a nomination that Councillor Little, so we'll put that name in. Councillor Shanks, do you want to nominate for chair? No? Okay. Might just take your... Did you want to speak? No? All good? Okay. No worries. Okay, so and Councillor Little accepted that nomination. So now we've got, I'll ask for a mover and seconder. Move Councillor Tooley, seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. That deals with that. Now we move down to 4.4, CEO Performance Management. If you'd like to put your hand up, you want to be on that committee. Okay, so and we've got Nathan Shanks, Councillor Shanks. We've got Councillor Davies. No, I don't know. Let's just have a look. Have we got everyone? We've got Davies, Kosh, Goldstone, Vallelonga, Tooley, Little, Hughes, I said Nathan, Councillor Shanks, Councillor Sample and Councillor Fraser. Do you accept, Councillor Shanks? You just take your mic off, Nathan. Oh, there you go.
Yes, I do accept, yeah.
You accept it? Okay. Are there any other nominations for chair? Do you accept, Councillor Sample? Okay, no problem. Any other nominations for chair? All good. Okay. So we'll put in Councillor Shanks's name as the chair, Kate. And we'll just double check that all those names are there on the committee. There's only 8 names. Everybody nominated. Councillor Davies. Councillor Davies, Councillor Kosh, Councillor Kosh, Sample. Right, that's right. Oh no, can you go up please, so I can see? Can you just go down please, so I can see all the names? Okay, so we've got, that's right, okay. Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga. I'll put that. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. That deals with that one. Okay, so now we move to the... Sorry, Councillor Sample.
Mayor Karen, regarding the proxy, one of the things I've thought of and been to other meetings, and quite often there is not a member of a council, and because councillors have all put their hands up for this, it's really, it may not have to come to it, but, you know, like if Councillor Shanks away or Councillor Little or whatever it may be, it certainly doesn't hurt to have a proxy out of all those elected members for those committees. Is it necessary to do that now or while we're doing this?
No, it's not. When the next committee of the new committee is had, the committee has delegated authority to appoint a deputy chair. You can do that at the first meeting. Okay, we'll move to 5, Audit Committee. Nominations for Audit Committee. Councillor Kosh, you've got your hand up. Any other nominations? Councillor Hughes? Would you prefer not to? Okay, so we'll add Councillor Kosh and Councillor Hughes. Okay. Right. Happy to accept the move and second that way. Councillor Kosh and Councillor Goldstone. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to the Gawler Heritage Collection Committee. I'll put my name up for that. Councillor Fraser's got a hand up. Councillor Kosh. Any other takers? Okay. We'll move those names in. And Councillor Fraser. Thank you, Kate. I'll put that motion, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Koch, Councillor Hughes, seconded. Okay, put that in. And I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now the Gawler Youth Advisory. Takers, nominations for the YAC. You've got your hand up, Nathan. Thank you. Nathan Shanks and Cody Davies. Any other nominations? So we look for a mover and a seconder that way. Councillor Samble, Councillor Goldstone. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So I've done that. Now we go to the Council Assessment Panel, or CAF as it is known. And we have a process, and then we choose. So we'll go through that process. It's the same as the process before, in case we have more than one. So I'll ask a mover and seconder to move and second the process, which is 8. Thank you, councillors. Thank you, Councillor Koch and Councillor Goldstone. All those in favour? All those against? All those in favour? All those against? Okay, so I'm not seeing that everybody's voted. All those in favour? All those against? If you could.
Sorry, Matt, can you just slow it down a second? It seems to be a bit glitchy there. What are we voting on here? Sorry.
We're voting on the process in accordance with clause 4.3 of the terms of reference, that the appointment of members, a bit like the appointment of the deputy mayor, it's the same process. We've got to do that first, and then we go to the process of picking or, voting for the members. And
perfect. Thank you. Thank you for that. Yeah, no worries.
We have a mover and a seconder. I'll put that vote again. So it's page 93, just so we're clear. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. So now we go over the page, and I'll ask for nominations for the CAP. Councillor Koch. Are you happy to be you happy to accept that? Are there any other nominations for the council member who has a seat at the table? No, that's great. Okay, so we'll put Councillor Goldstone's name in there. Didn't see any other name hands go up. And deputies. Are you happy to be nominated as a deputy? Councillor, did I see your hand go up, Nathan? Are you happy to be deputy? Okay, so we've got 2 nominations for deputy. Are there any other nominations for deputy? There be none, so we've covered off on that. Just get rid of that. I'll now ask for a mover and seconder. Councillor Samble and Councillor Vallelonga. So it was Councillor Hughes, who was the other? Yeah. And Councillor Samble and Councillor Vallelonga moved and seconded. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So that completes item 11.12, and we move on to 11.13. Okay. And we've got a similar process where we vote on the process first, and then we go through and appoint people to various external bodies, and we'll ask for nominations. And there are a couple of extras that aren't in here. There are the Gawler Business Development Group needs to be included, and I think I flagged this with Kate earlier, and also the Gawler River Floodplain Management Authority. I think that's right, Sam. Norma that's for 2 years, I think, so that's not included tonight. And the Climate Emergency Working Group doesn't come up till next year, I believe. Is that correct? Right. So it covers, I think everything else is covered tonight. Okay, so I'm happy to accept a mover and a seconder of the process, which is that first blurb there. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser and Councillor Samble? Are you happy to second? Beautiful. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion? Carried unanimously. Thank you. We now have a process. Wonderful. Local Government Association So we're looking for a proxy. Now, last year it was Councillor Samble. Deputy Mayor Samble, of course. Are you happy to accept that nomination as proxy? Any other nominations for proxy? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Councillor Tooley.
Accept that nomination as proxy? Yes? Okay. Any other nominations? So it will be, now I'll hand over to you, Returning Officer. Yes, you can. Returning Officer, do you want to take control? Just press it. There we go. Lovely.
I'll now ask for the two candidates to present their credentials for 2 minutes each. So Ryan Samble first.
Thank you, CEO Henry. Yes, as regards to representing the town of Gawler at the Local Government Association, I think it's important, as has been said by many elected members from time to time, it's important not only to do the lobbying, but to also stand up for what we represent here in our council. We've seen a lot of movement with boundary exchanges and the way politics has been moving into these things, and I think a voice supporting our mayor at these particular functions is very, very important, and I would be very proud to be able to support any way I can from the directions of our council.
Councillor Shank, no, sorry. Councillor Tooley, sorry. Councillor Tooley.
Thank you. I've taken a great interest in the local government. I have lobbied the President Telfer, CEO Henniger, and also many of the mayors, and I've developed quite a relationship with quite a number of the mayors. I've attended of my own volition, even though not a nominated delegate. I have always gone to the process of registering, and I've attended the AGMs and the OGMs to pay attention to what is going on, and in the breaks to network and to meet with other mayors and to share and discuss and to lobby. And every time that I've gone, I've noticed that many councils take delegations, not just the deputy, not just a councillor, but it is very common to see CEOs there. It is very common to see groups of councillors there. And when you speak to them, they speak about the educational value, the inclusivity, the bringing on of young and new members to the experience of local government. And as you know, I have been very active in moving motions regarding the climate emergency declaration. And I plan to do the same for the upcoming OGM. And I've already begun the lobbying. I've already contacted the current president of the LGA. I've asked her for her amendment. She made a very good amendment to our motion. So I'm quite well known and quite well regarded in those circles. And maybe you could vote that both of us go. There is only one person who can vote on the day, and that is the mayor. If she's not there, then a proxy will vote. But it would be an honour to go. I have a great interest in it. And also other members, I'd hope that we could be a bit more inclusive and encourage more people to go along for the educational benefit. It's very good. So maybe you could say that both of us could be delegates.
2 minutes is up, so you take over, CEO.
Yeah, so if members can fill out the ballot paper, and I'll raise your hands and I'll come and collect, and I'll again ask Kate and Paul to join me.
Mayor's doing his own. He's got that all sorted.
Congratulations, Brian Sample.
Just a slight tweak, Kate, to the motion. It's not OMG, it's OGM, and I really think it should be ordinary general meeting, not an acronym. Ordinary general meeting. So, looking for a well, everyone knows what an AGM is, but OGM, not many people know what that stands for. Okay, I'll ask for a mover and seconder. Councillor Fraser, Councillor Hughes, all those in favour? All those, it's carried unanimously, thank you. I'll now move to the Australian Local Government Association, go through a similar process, looking for nominations as proxy. Who'd like to nominate? Or nobody? Councillor Hughes? You'd like to nominate as, as proxy. Any other nominations? Okay, with your name in. Councillor Children? Yeah, it's the Canberra. Do you accept, Deputy Mayor? You. So are you happy to accept that nomination, Deputy Mayor? Brian? Yeah, you're happy to accept that nomination? Okay. Okay, all right. Any other nominations? If not, I can't see Nathan putting his hand up. Okay, no. I'll put Councillor Sample in there, Kate, as proxy. Deputy Mayor Sample, I should say. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Oh, hang on. Councillor Goldstone and Councillor Ballawonga. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Local Government Finance Authority. It's probably appropriate that we have Deputy Mayor Sample, given that he's already there at the LGA. That would be my recommendation. It's up to you, but I'm happy to move that way. Deputy Mayor Sample as proxy, seconded by Councillor Ballawonga. No? Unless there's somebody who really wants to be a proxy for that particular meeting. Okay, that's fine. So it's Deputy Mayor Sample. I'll look for a member in a second. Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Hughes. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? All those in favour? Oh, carried unanimously. Thank you. Move over to Reconciliation Action Plan. Any takers for this particular? Councillor Little, you happy to put your hand up? You can have two. You can have two. I don't think it's good to have a couple sometimes. So Councillor Little and Councillor Kosh have put their hand up for the Reconciliation Action Plan Working Group. Okay. Any other nominations? I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Samble, Councillor Vallelonga. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Gawler Community Neighbourhood House Incorporated Board. Is there any board members of the Community House here? Well, you are on the board. You're a sitting member. I would. Well, that's up to you. You're on the board, so you've got an interest in the matter. So you're going to leave the room as a board member of the Gawler Community House. Okay. And allow Councillor Fraser to leave the room. Moved by, so we had, now, are you wishing to put your hand up and nominate yourself?
Nominate Councillor Fraser.
Oh, she's already on the board.
Sorry?
She's already on the board. She's on the board as
I
a community member.
But I thought she was council's representative as well.
No.
Okay,
No.
sorry.
Anybody nominating? Councillor Vallelonga, do you want to nominate yourself? No? Okay. Okay, we can leave that blank. We don't have to do that.
And with the homeless people in the town, that's I've always felt very proud of it that you are as a councillor, and it's all part of the the whole system. So I'm just proud to nominate you.
Happy to accept. Okay. Put your name through there. Councillor Davies, Councillor Vallelonga. Okay. So we'll move by Councillor Samble and seconded by Councillor Vallelonga. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. So we'll move on and ask Diane to come back in. So Gawler and District College Council Board. You happy to put your hand up? Councillor Davies has put himself forward. Councillor Kosh, deputy. Okay, as a proxy. Councillor Kosh. Any other nominations for this? Councillor Shanks.
I just had a question, Mayor. What time does this board meet, and how regularly in a year?
Councillor Davies probably knows better than me. How often?
Yeah, they meet at, let's see, well, they haven't this month because of COVID and all that, but generally they meet at around 6 p.m. at the on Monday nights, once a month during school week. So it's usually like 8 or 9 months of the year they actually hold the meeting.
I'd like to put my hand up for a proxy if I could, Mayor.
We can have 2 proxies. That'll work. That means it gives lots of flexibilities. I think that's okay, isn't it, Kate? Yep. So we've got 2 proxies and a nominee, Councillor Balalonga. You want to move that way? You move that way? Thank you. Do I have a seconder? It's Councillor Samble. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Sorts that out. Gawler District Health Advisory Council Incorporated. Councillor Hughes, you've been on that. Continue. And Councillor Little, you want to put your hand up and go on it? Oh, any other nominations for the... we're up to Gawler and District Health Advisory Council. So we've got two. We can put your names in. Any other nominations? No? I will put those names in. That's Councillor Hughes and Councillor Little. I'll ask for a mover and a seconder. Councillor Balalonga, Councillor Hughes. And I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So I'll declare a perceived conflict in the Greater Adelaide Region Organising Council. I don't think it really matters. Notes the election of Mayor Karen Redmond to the Garrock Committee. And I'll stay in the room for this matter. Looking for a mover and a seconder. Moved by Councillor Samble, seconded by Councillor Tooley. I'll ask for a seconder, then I'll do Councillor Hughes is seconded. Question, Councillor Tooley.
Yes, Mayor. When I attended the AGM, they called a meeting of the Garrock and the Sarrock, and then it was announced that the president or the chair of the Garrock was David, the mayor of
That's right.
Prospect. I assume that you attended that meeting and they already were the allocated Garrock representatives that were there. You've already been sworn in as members of the Garrock, I thought.
You were, yes. If you get elected at large from your region, and then the group itself elects whoever nominates for chair. And Mayor O'Loughlin nominated himself for chair and was elected by that group. So the committee itself elects the chair.
So doesn't that mean the membership's already determined then for the Garrock?
The membership is determined by the election process. So the election process happened before the AGM, and the committee meets at the AGM, after the AGM, and elects those of that committee that go to the board and also to the chair.
That's what I mean. I thought that's, therefore you attended that, you're already on the committee. I didn't realise we had to nominate you a second time.
No, this isn't, this is just noting. This is noting. Notes the appointment. It's not an appointment, it was an election. Yeah.
Oh, I see. I beg your pardon. I misunderstood.
So,
I thought we were nominating you now for that.
No.
Okay, right. Thank you.
No problem. Okay. So we just need to move. We've got a mover and a seconder. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we move on to the Gawler Business Development Group. Nathan, can you see those minutes okay? Yep, good. So we've just added a couple that weren't included, that needed to be included. One's the Gawler Business Development Group and the other one's the Gawler River Floodplain Authority. Now, Nathan, you want to put your... Yep.
Just a question, if I can, Mayor. Gawler Business Development Group, when do they meet and how often?
They meet on Tuesday morning at 7:30, don't they? And how often, David? Once a month. So Tuesday morning at 7:30 a.m.
Okay.
Okay, nominations for the GBDG. Councillor Sample, you happy to put yourself up?
No, I'd like to nominate Councillor Paul Kosh and speak on the point. Paul has been the proxy member for the last 12 months and is held in high esteem with the members of that committee. And the committee from time to time tends to go off on a little bit of a different angle from time to time, and it's been great that Paul's been there and asked the questions. And meetings that I haven't attended and some of the board and that have mentioned to me that it's really been great with the information that's been passed on. So I'd certainly like to be the proxy. If I'll put my hand in the ring there, but ask for him to be the official representative for that if he would so take the position.
Okay, so you're happy to accept that. Do I have any other? So we've got a self-nomination for proxy, which I think is appropriate. Any other nominations for the position on the GBDG? No? That's good. Councillor Shanks.
I'd like to put my hand up for a proxy as well, if I can, Mayor.
Yeah, we can add you as a proxy.
Yep.
I think it helps because given the time, I think it helps to have a couple of people who might be.
Yeah, I think that time's not really going to work too well, but if it's the odd meeting here and there, I should be able to make that work.
Beautiful. So we will incorporate that into the motion. And thank you, Kate, for doing that. Do I have a move and a seconder that way? Councillor Ballalonger, Councillor Hughes. Thank you. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. So that, and now we'll move on to the Gawler River Floodplain Management Authority. And we need, how many, do we have one or two? We've previously had one member and one proxy. Is that right, Sam? Yeah. Sam, you attend meetings as council administration, as Henry's delegate. So you'd like to put yourself forward as a GFRMA. Do I have a proxy nomination? Don't have to have a proxy nomination, but okay. So we'll put forward Councillor Koch's name. And I'll ask for a move and a seconder that way. Councillor Samble and Councillor Hughes. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? It carried unanimously. Thank you. Sorry. Oh, you voted against? Sorry, it's carried. Thank you. Right. No, I've been told that that's not coming up till next year. Is that correct? I did ask about that. I was told that it was coming up next year. Is that correct? Kate's confirming, because I did check on that prior to the meeting, because I thought it should probably come up tonight. But no, next year. No, they don't expire till next year, which is interesting. Okay, so that concludes that matter. Right, now, I'll tell you what, we haven't done. Yep, we've done that. Yes, yes.
I know Norma's a 2-year term and it doesn't come till next year, but Councillor Little has said that he would like to become a proxy on that, not a member. So is there anybody else that would like to be a member of it? If nobody else wants to do it, I'll be the member. But I did think I had too many meetings, but we can swap, or if somebody else would like to become a member on that.
So how does that work with the charter and the 2-year term? Just a question on the process. Given that it's...
Yeah, through the chair, I think it's appropriate that that there be a separate standalone report that comes to council on the membership as opposed to doing it on the fly at this point. So we'll take note of that and we'll bring a further report back to council for the December meeting.
Better way to go, and that we can bring that earlier the next year. And we just want to make sure we address whatever's in the charter. Yeah. Yep.
As you know, there's a bit of a problem going on with ex-service people from Afghanistan. I'm involved in a small way this year, so I want to dedicate more of my time to that. It's approximately around about the same time as those meetings are. That's the only reason I'm pulling out. So that's my explanation for that.
We can do that. Yeah, we can just swap over. I think it's, I mean, given that you're not going to be able to make them anyway, Paul, are you? So why don't we just do that? We can always bring it back if there's something terribly wrong. I don't think they're going to mind as long as somebody from Gawler goes. So probably not. all right. Well, what we'll do is we'll wait for the report to come back and we can change it a little bit. We'll leave it as is and assume that you're taking Councillor Little's place for the time being, Councillor Fraser. Okay. Moving on to 11:14. And we've got Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I'm happy to move the motion, but I'd actually like to change the terms to 2-year terms because the new legislation that's coming in will mean there'll be quite a few extra independent members coming on to the audit committee, and there's quite a bit of a shake-up. So yeah, happy with the nominations, but yeah, I think the terms might be a bit too long, so just happy to change them to both 2-year terms.
Okay. So you've moved that way. Do I have a seconder to that? Councillor Samble, do you wish to speak at all? Right. Any other discussion? So 2 and 2? Yeah. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Hughes, I'm going to put the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Yes. And all those against? It is carried. Thank you. Councillor Samble. Thank you. That's that done. Developer request for new street name. Councillor Davies, you happy to move that way?
Yeah, look, this is, we're not, as I understand it, approving the name of a particular street. We're just saying Woodland is an acceptable name to put on the list of future streets, and it doesn't seem to break any of our rules, and I'm happy with it.
Seconder, Councillor Fraser. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we've got item 11:16. You move that way, Councillor Davies? Is that what you put your hand up? No? No. I'm sure you put your hand up. Okay. You happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Seconded by Councillor Little. Any discussion? Councillor Koch.
Yeah, just on because this is at the Gawler South Oval. I just wanted to clarify where the funds actually go. Do the funds go to council or to the football club?
Mr. Horner?
Through you, Mayor, the lease fee goes direct to council.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Not. Councillor Hughes, if you're for me to put the motion, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. So now we move on to recommendations from committees. I'll just go back to my... Stop again. Okay, so I'm on page 112, 12.1. So we'll just work through some of these motions and these resolutions from some of the committees. So the Audit Committee, 12.1 is motion made under delegated authority for noting, moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Goldstone. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. 12.1.1 is a recommendation. Move that way, Councillor Little. Do I have a second? Councillor Hughes. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 12.1.2, appointment of independent. We've done that. We've done that. Do we have to do that? Okay. Why is that there? We've already endorsed it. Why is that there?
I think this was just the report that went to the committee to note that the appointments were
Because that's already been
up.
gone. That's already done.
It has been.
Right. Okay, so we'll move to 12.1.3. Annual report received and noted. Moved by Councillor Hughes, seconded by Councillor Fraser. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Turning over to the over page, we have Audit Committee from the 11th of November. We've got some noting, 12.2. Moved by Councillor Hughes. Do I have a second? Councillor Little. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. General purpose, we've done that. That came up earlier last week. That's been done, hasn't it? That came up to council. That actually came up to council, Kate. We addressed that last week. Is that correct, Mr. Board? Thank you. We don't need to do it again, do we? No. The financial performance summary. Have we done that? We don't. That didn't get covered last week, did it? No. The Audit Committee is recommending that we adopt the recommendation from the Audit Committee, that the Audit Committee recommends to Council that the 1920 financial performance summary report be noted. You happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? You happy to second? Any discussion? No, I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. First quarter budget review. We've done that, haven't we? We don't need to do that again. That was done last week on the 24th of September. Okay. I'm on page 115 and I've just addressed the first quarter budget review. Always goes to the Audit Committee, and we adopted it last week. Draft Gawler Community Plan. This is just recommending Council that it considers any feedback from this committee concerning the draft Gawler Community Plan. They didn't really have any feedback. That was my observation, Councillor Hughes. You happy to move that way? Councillor Koch, did you have your hand up? I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Internal Audit Work Plan update. You happy to move that way, Councillor Koch? Councillor Hughes seconded. I'll put that motion. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Now we move on to the, and I'm on page 116, recommendations from Gawler Heritage Collection Committee on the 12th of November. I've got a couple of things here. So we've got a delegated for noting. Happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes. Seconded by Councillor Koch. All those in favour? Carried. All those against? All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. Garner Shield, interpretive sign. Moved by Councillor Koch, seconded by Councillor Goldstein. All those in favour? All the, yes? Sorry, you've got a cough there, Councillor.
One of the reasons I'm voting against these things is because nothing's provided, you know, that says listen to the recommendations and the feedback from the committee regarding the draft plan, but who the hell knows what that is?
Well, we do get provided through the hub all committee minutes, all agendas. That is our role.
Yeah.
If you want to, you know, if you've got any questions, you go to those minutes in committees. Well, that's what I do. If I'm not on a committee, I check.
God bless you. You know, but
that is the role of an elected member.
Accessing that stuff on the hub, the plethora, I'll keep voting against it until we get something sensible given to us, because it's just ridiculous the amount of reading. I mean,
that's why we have these committees.
Thousands of pages. Yeah, but that's why it comes back to us. We're not just meant to rubber stamp the committee. We're meant to know something about it.
You can by looking
and sometimes
at
there's really significant things in there, and our attention is not drawn to them.
I suggest you look at them if you have concerns.
I think I look at things more than most. I come to this council
you clearly
thoroughly
do, because
prepared.
You've just complained that you couldn't find them.
Yeah, I can't find stuff on the hub. I find the hub very hard to find, very hard. I'd like hard copies.
Well, maybe we could
everything.
give you some more education on the hub, Councillor Toole.
Well, it's not education on the hub. It's my doctor says I must not read that stuff on the hub because it gives me severe headaches. That's why I have to get it in hard copy. I have told you this before.
So what is your question?
Yeah, and I have got a doctor's certificate, which you didn't listen last time, but eventually we got the stuff out of confidence so we can get it in hard copy.
What is your question?
Oh, thank you. We can finally get around to that. It's the shield. What is the text? What is the text that we're this interpretive text? What is it? Where have we seen the text? What's
the text that was recommended in the report, Mr. Barrett? Thank you, David.
So through the chair, I'd have to take the exact text on notice because it's in the report. I'd need to refer to that report to give you the exact text because I don't have it in my head.
And I would guarantee that no one here does either, but they're going to vote on it and they don't even know what the text is. That's my point. We vote on things that we voted on minutes that we've never seen before. We voted on minutes that haven't even been published before.
If I can, rather than you yelling at people, Councillor Tooley, I will explain.
No, you got
that
no
I
idea.
was at that
could yell.
committee
This
meeting.
is just slightly elevated voice.
We had a discussion about
just a slightly
the
elevated
text,
voice.
and
That's all it is,
everybody
mate.
at the committee, including the community members, which is the majority of the committee, was very happy with the text that will go next to that shield.
Please don't be condescending, Mayor.
I alert you
Please be
to the
respectful.
report that you can look at your leisure. Okay, thank you. I think that's addressed. Any other discussion?
No, it hasn't.
Any
I'm
other
not
discussion?
satisfied.
If not, Councillor Koch, I'll put the motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against, it is carried. Thank you. And then we have the final recommendation from the committee. Looking at councillors. You happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Koch. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion. All those against. It is carried. You must vote, councillors. Okay. So now we move on to the recommendations from the Corporate and Community Services Committee held on the 10th of November. And we have the first 12.4, which is a noting, and I'll ask for mover. Thank you, Councillor Hughes, and seconded by Councillor Goldstone. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you. We now move on to 12.4.2, the Gawler Amateur Swimming Club, Gawler Aquatic Centre concession request. No, I haven't. The actual community garden proposal is here. Came up from the committee is over the page. Yeah, and I am going to declare a conflict in 12.4.2 as a family member who's on the executive, and so I will remove myself from the room. And Deputy Mayor, if you'd like to take the chair for 12.4, which is the Gawler Swimming Club, if you'd like to take the chair. Thank you. I shall vacate the room. Sorry about the mess, Brian.
Thank you, Councillor Fraser.
But in the minutes, it actually said that I voted for this and I wasn't at the meeting. So that needs to be a correction to the minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is everybody knows all about the community garden proposal? Sorry? Okay. Moved by Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Goldstein. Discussions, please. Yes, Councillor Koch.
Yeah, thank you, Deputy Mayor. Look, it's obvious that people want to support this because we had the discussion, that's fine. The only concern I have is part 3, which allows the members of the swimming club to be eligible for a 75% concession, which allows them to have visits outside of their training. And the whole reason behind part 2 was that they felt that they didn't need to have a pass to come and do training, and everybody accepted that. And what was said on the night was that that swimmers only come into the pool for swimming and don't necessarily come in only come in for their training and don't necessarily come in for just recreational swimming. So if that's the case, I don't think that's appropriate that they're given a 75% discount for recreational use when it's nothing to do with the club. It seems to be an added benefit to a one particular class within the community, and I don't think that's right, that one particular class, i.e. the members of the swimming club, get get an advantage over other people when we don't do that for any other club. So I would be not supporting this only because of that part 3. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Councillor Fraser?
I didn't attend the meeting, but I did read the agenda, and if I had been present, I wouldn't have voted for that either. That particular item, I would have voted against that as well. So, I don't know. Yeah.
CEO, is there any staff that can make a comment? Erin? Thank you.
Through the chair, that was a request made of the swimming club on the evening, and it was put into the recommendations. So obviously they currently get a 75% concession, but that does allow them to enter for their training. But this would be a bonus to swimming club members that it's not currently in place. So it is quite an extra bonus for them.
Thank you. Any other, Councillor Goldstein, would you like to?
Yeah, this recommendation sort of covers off on every issue that they raised when they gave their presentation. There's a bit of mucking about going backwards and forwards, but I think it does cover everything. I'm happy with it and I'll be supporting it.
Thank you. Any other councillors would like to? Yes, Councillor Tooley.
So, Deputy Mayor, you are clear we are dealing with item 7.3, the amateur swimming club, not the garden.
Yep, we've moved from the garden, we've gone to the pool.
Beautiful. Okay. There was a lot of debate. It was a good debate. We had representatives here. We asked an awful lot of questions. I do not recall the vote, except that I do know Councillor Koch did vote against it. Clearly the majority did. They were here, they listened to the presentation, they listened to the arguments, and they voted strongly in favour of it. So I would encourage us to support the motion tonight.
Councillor Hughes?
On the night of the committee meeting, we did actually hear that the club is really struggling to attract members at the moment, and this was seen as an extra bonus, and they also had quite significant fundraising problems with COVID and other issues. So this is a really good deal for the swimming club. I think it's something that once COVID's finished, hopefully next year sometime, we'd probably relook at this. But at this stage, I'm happy to support it for now. I think it falls into the COVID support area, and I'm really hopeful that the club can actually attract another 50 members or more and really get sustainable again. So I'm in favour of this motion.
Thank you. Yes, I think the big thing is now maybe the swimming pool does need a bit more promotion through our local paper, the Bunyip, to get people to go along and get out there and enjoy the facilities. There's certainly, the upgrade has just been fantastic, so it's a matter of getting the message out there, I think. And this could be one way of certainly keeping the members involved, but we need to get the general public to understand this there too, so thank you. Yeah.
The grant that we've got for the sporting clubs, is the swimming club eligible for a portion of that or not?
CEO or Erin, thank you.
Through the chair, as you can see, I think it's number 4. It's allocating them $2,000 from the hardship fund, and in the grant, the stimulus packages, that's the only one they're actually eligible for because they're not a lease, they hold a license. They're not a leaseholder, so that's the only one that they're eligible for, and obviously they have asked for that money, and that's why that's been put forward as a recommendation.
That answers your question. Is there any other speakers for or against this point that we're discussing at this time?
I'm just going to jump in there, Brian. I think you're not looking down on the screen, if that's all right. Yeah. So look, I'm happy to vote for the recommendation. I'm glad Councillor Hughes made that point because I wasn't at the meeting, but when I was reading through that, I did sort of pick up on the fact that maybe they are trying to coach those new members in. And if this is one of those tactics, I'm more than happy to sort of support that. And given the presentation that probably would have come to the CCS to come to this, yeah, it did sort of read that way to me. So I'm glad that was sort of clarified. And I think that it is showing support, especially given the amount of money that we've just put into that asset. It's just continuing that support through. And then, yes, we might look at it in 12 months' time and reassess the numbers. But really promoting that asset, I think, is in everyone's best interest.
Thank you, Councillor Shane. Councillor Koch? Sorry? Yeah, I know you have. That's what, but nobody else is talking at the moment. So, speak again. You happy with that? Thank you. All happy that Councillor Koch speaks again? All those in favour? Those against? It's carried. Thank you, Councillor Koch.
Just need his microphone there, Brian.
I mean, I was concerned about number 3, part 3, but I've heard other members saying it's only for 1 year, but that's not reflected in the motion. So if somebody could move an amendment to add that in there, so it's just for the 1 year and it's been reviewed at the next season, then I'd be happy with that.
You're happy to move that amendment?
Well, I can't because I've already spoken, but if another councillor who hasn't spoken yet would like to move that, I think that would clarify that situation.
Elected members, you understand what has been said? Have we got somebody to move that amendment? If not, we have the recommendation there in front of us. I'm asking for a mover for that recommendation, please. Moved by Councillor Fraser, seconded by Councillor Goldstein. Is there any other speakers for or against? What is on the board up there? No, Councillor Koch's amendment hadn't been accepted. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Fraser, you're happy that that motion be put? All those in favour of that motion? All those against? It is carried. Thank you, councillors. Yeah. We want to go back to the garden or what? Oh, well, it's quite the week.
So 12.4.3, and one's still on page 119 at the bottom of the page. Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Moved by Councillor Fraser. Seconder, Councillor Hughes. Any discussion? If not, I'll put that motion. All those in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we move over to the over page. And I've got the Gawler Fringe update. And here, it's at the bottom of the page. It's at the bottom of the page. Fringe update. You happy to move that way, Councillor Fraser? Do I have a seconder? Councillor Davies, do you wish to speak at all? Any discussion? Do you wish to speak, seconder?
Yeah, just to say, look, it's I'm looking forward to the Fringe. I'm not entirely sold on the, I guess, value for money of only doing one night as opposed to the 3 that we had before in terms of some of the costs that we're going to have regardless of whether we have it on over 3 days or not. But I'm still happy to trial it for this year and then come back to it next year.
Thank you. Councillor Tooley.
Yeah, I'm surprised to not hear people voting and their concerns about the money. I heard several people who are silent on this tonight in the past saying that it's way too much money. It was meant to be a seed amount. It's now become underwritten by the ratepayers to the tune of that figure that you see there. And yet those those members who are quite critical of that are now silent, which surprises me, because this is just another big slab that we just keep forking out. The other thing is that, and this concern's been raised before, is that there's a certain small group of businesses that seem to benefit from its location. It doesn't seem to me that we share the love. The businesses in the Walker Place precinct obviously benefit. There seem to be the same ones that tender to run alcohol, etc. When I would have thought it would be more inclusive, if we're going to have a fringe event, that it could be shared around different location, northern end of the town, southern end of the town. And the other problem we've got with Walker Place is that it is now less suited, in my view, for this type of event. If you look at the way it's structured, you look at the location of some seating, you look at the bollards, the lack of shelter, the ability to put a stage at one end, it just doesn't suit a function type approach as it might have done had it been designed differently. And certainly if it had been even left as it was, it could have functioned with a greater capacity. And of course, the other problem we've got is that we're losing the Walker Place toilets, located strategically at the end of Walker Place, and we're going to lose an awful lot of money on what could have been a cheap refurbishment. And so people, I mean, I think I've heard it said that people are going to put portable toilets up. I don't know about you, but I avoid them like the plague if I go to an event. They're the most disgusting things to go into, and I don't think people will use them. You'll put them there because you'll have to if there's an event, but you'll find people will come across to the Golden Fleece Hotel next to Chibo. They'll rush in and use those sort of toilets. They'll use decent toilets rather than those little plastic boxes as you get stuck in that stink. And we could have had the Walker Place toilets. So I think we've lost our way with the fringe. I think we're wasting ratepayers' money, and I think the Walker Place location is not suitable. So I'll be voting against this.
Mover, do you wish to speak? You haven't spoken.
I'd just like to make some comments. The northern end of town.
She hasn't spoken yet. No, you don't. No, I didn't know. I just said, is there any discussion? Councillor Fraser did not speak as the mover. I went straight to Councillor Davies. No, you didn't. No, she didn't defer anything. She just didn't speak.
I could speak at the end.
So, look, Councillor Fraser, you have the floor. You have the floor. Hopefully you're allowed to speak and not interrupted. Keep going.
What I'd like to say is that the northern end of
Councillor
town...
Tooley, please be quiet so the mover can speak. Thank you, Councillor Fraser. Keep going.
Councillor Tooley said that the southern end of town gets the fringe every year. The northern end of town gets the market every Saturday morning. They usually get the Christmas show, the carols, so they do get their share of, and usually the
keep going, Councillor.
I can't remember what it's called early in November, the one that's
Village Fair.
The village fair. So they do get their fair share. This is for the northern end of the southern end, which hardly ever get anything really. So, and also we have to be fair. I think if I remember rightly, the whole of Walker's Place, albeit it's not the way I envisaged it, but I've got a feeling that when it was designed, it was actually designed to hold functions there. So far we haven't had one. So let's have an opportunity to see how it works and then criticise it after if we need to.
I'm actually getting a lot of calls about people who have bands and who are really excited about the fridge. Fielded quite a number of calls about that and pass them on to council staff. So people are quite excited about it. Councillor Sample?
Mayor Karen, taken into consideration, I remember years ago, everybody worked their butt off to get a rotunda built up in Pioneer Park. What a magnificent venue there is up there. And with this COVID thing that's around at the moment, I'm trying to work my head around how many people are going to be standing 2 metres apart in Walker Place. I mean, to me, 28 grand. I mean, you know what I'm like with money. And I still haven't got the cash box on the entry to the Heritage Gallery. And the thing is with it, that the rotunda is there, built by the Lions Club of Gawler, such a fantastic service club that's built that. Huge lawn areas, even the dead grass has even grown back. But that's where these sort of functions should be happening. The market happens up there, as Councillor Fraser said, but it's a bit of a different concept. But if we're going to have a bit of a festive feel and jam everything into Walker Place, I mean, no one said how many people are allowed to be there. And some of the reports that we're hearing about how you're not allowed to stand or look at anybody in the eye anymore because you've got to be that far away. So Pioneer Park, I'd vote for this motion if the money was spent at Pioneer Park. But for a day night, you know, I'm sorry, but that's too much of ratepayers' money to be spending on something. I mean, if they're going to, you know, have Troy Cassar-Daley and a few of these other good country singers there, but I can't see it working in Walker Place, but I'd certainly like to see smaller events happen there, as Councillor Fraser said. But, you know, the place where we should be really, with plenty of room, is Pioneer Park and the Lions Rotunda. We've got to use that rotunda more. That's what it was built by the Lions Club for.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Ballawonga.
Just to follow up on a little bit on what Councillor Samuel said, I agree a little bit that the rotunda should be used. Walker Place, it's a bit small for these kind of functions, and only a handful of people really benefit out of it, and I think that's a little bit unfair. If you can remember, I'm not sure if you've been in Gawler a long time, but I have. There was a lady called Jackie Law Smith. I don't know if you know her.
I remember Jackie Law Smith.
Right. Now, she done very good for the town. She used to put a lot of money into events, and she'd done a lot of good events, and everybody in the whole town benefited. Admittedly, all the hotels and people that had licenses and people who done food, money was given to them and they all shared it. We all paid into it. I say we because I'm part of the town. And Goose Island was used. I don't know if you remember what Goose Island is. It's,
I remember.
Goose Island is, and that was very good because you got the bridge. They used to take you to the toilet, so that's okay. I had to throw that in. So I'm not for wasting all that money just for that little place in Walker Place and only a handful of people benefit. I believe that that money should really be spent on whoever want to put their hand up to, and the fringe is about bands, isn't it? Now we've done bands before across the whole town, and I think everybody should benefit out of that way.
You've got to be supporting this. All the community actually love going to Walker Place and having events. You've only got to look at the history of it. For example, when we had the little laneway, you couldn't get in there. It was so crowded. People absolutely loved it. And what it does, it actually activates the centre of town. It does activate the other businesses around it, which is important. Also, in the fringe, other establishments actually put on events as well. So, for example, I think the Prince Albert put on a big event over Fringe, and it was just full, and some of the other pubs did too. So, by doing this, it's really a catalyst for the other establishments to also put on fringe events, which they are doing. You know, it's $28,000, 15 and a bit is sunk costs, because that's what you need to do for putting up fences and security, etc., toilets and whatnot, and the others in kind. I think that's quite a good balance. And say with the toilets, maybe we should actually look at some of the existing businesses there and actually say to them, what happens if we could actually pay you for people to use your toilets? You never know, you might be able to actually do that. People might say, yes, you know, I'll let you use my toilets, it's part of my business, you pay us, because at the end of the day, a lot of it is just down to money. It might be cheaper for us to actually actually approach a business and get them to open up their toilets, and we pay them for that evening. So that might be, there's always a way around things. So I'm looking really forward to this, because it also includes a lot of events within this building, which I think will be a real bonus. I saw the events last year, and they were popular all day, right through the Sunday. People were coming through, and it was full, and the bands were fantastic. So, yep, I'm happy to support this, and I'm looking forward to the whole package. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Councillor Goldstone.
Just quickly to remind everyone, this is about the whole Gawler Fringe project for the town. It's not just the Walker Place Park. So, as Councillor Koch said, it's about the events that are going on in this building. So, yeah, just if you look at it, have a careful read of it. If this doesn't get up, it's not we'll have a fringe event. So.
Thank you. Any other discussion? If not, Councillor Fraser, in close
Councillor Cost did explain that there's lots of venues throughout Gawler for this, so it's not just all Walker's Place. This is what the council's putting on. It's not what's just the only thing that's happening. But with COVID, sure, we may have to relook at it. We may have to move it. But let's hope we don't. Let's hope we're on top of it by then and we don't have to. But we just have to play that by ear. And the years that it's been in Walker's Place, it's been very popular. So people just can't wait for it to come back. They really missed it last year. So I think it hopefully, keep our fingers crossed, it will be another great event.
So I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. All those against? It is carried. Thank you, everyone. Councillor Tooley has called a division. All those in favour, please stand. Yep, I've got you, Nathan. All good. I'll call Councillor Shanks first. Councillor Shanks, Councillor Davies, Councillor Koch, Councillor Goldstone, Councillor Hughes, Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Vallelonga, Tooley, Little and Sample. The motion is carried. Thank you. So moving on to 12.4.5, Essex Park and Gawler Showgrounds Regional Sporting Precinct Master Plan going out for public consultation. Are you happy to move that way? Councillor Hughes, do you have a seconder? Councillor Little, mover, seconder, do you wish to speak?
Just briefly, this is a really important project for our town. It's really important that we do get feedback. There's been a lot of work on this plan with the sporting groups already, but I think it's a chance for the general public as well to have a say. And we certainly need the support of the sporting clubs and everyone else to actually help get some funding for this as well. So it's very important that this gets around and gets some feedback and doesn't sit anywhere, it just keeps moving.
Councillor Little, any discussion? Councillor Tooley and Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I think Erin and her team, and is it mainly Bryce? Yep. To see them here and presenting it with enthusiasm was fantastic, because it's been a big job for them to do. They've had to look at many factors, many connections, obviously the show, the sporting groups, but it's part of that whole vision that council has and the potential for that whole riverbank precinct. You know, if we can ever get the funding from the feds, it rolls from the pool, it goes down through the tennis courts, as you know, the netball facility, and to the showgrounds. And you know, we're blessed. I don't think we market it well enough, but we're blessed with having two rivers, and with the riverine parks, but also that whole area as a central precinct. And because we are, when we choose to say it, we will say we're a regional centre. And as a regional centre, when you offer those services, you can market that to the big feds for additional funding, if you can put that case. Sadly, we don't always say that we're a regional centre. When it suits us, we're not a regional centre, which is crazy. But when you can market your connectivity, when you can say in a massive sporting precinct like that, that you can market yourself to the Barossa, to Light, and to those regions, and say, come to us, then that brings money. But it's not only money, it's in terms of the people that come and pay. It's the money that the feds will give you when you truly say you are a regional centre, that you provide the services for beyond your side. It's like Marion with the swimming pool and some of the other major infrastructure in the city. Yes, it sits within that council area, but they got that money to develop a major international sporting facility because they would service the state and the nation and other areas. It doesn't just service the little people of Marion. And at times, that's what we market ourselves. No, we're Gawler, we're a destination. Come to us and love us because of who we are. We forget our connectivities. So I commend Erin and her team for the great work they've done. And along with our grant writers, we should actively pursue this. And maybe now is the time, COVID, etc., but to bring money in for something like this, that's what vision is, and that's what leaves a legacy for our town.
Thank you. Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, just a question. I was just wondering if we could get a comment from Erin just around the sporting club engagement and how she's found it, how she's found that.
Erin?
Through the mayor, it's been pretty positive the whole way through. Obviously, we've been through a few different stages. Originally, we had some big concept plans, and that potentially didn't go down as well with everybody. They were included things like moving the show completely or moving the swimming pool, so they were a little bit contentious discussions. But since that time, we've had 2 more rounds of consultation with the sporting clubs, and the last one was really positive, including the showgrounds as the show as well, Show Society, and everyone was really positive about where we're at and pretty confident. Obviously, the next phase is talking more in detail to the clubs and the members of the clubs, not just the boards and the executive members. So we'll see how that shakes out and whether or not that changes any parts of the plan.
Thank you, Erin. Any other discussion? Councillor Shanks.
Yeah, look, I'm happy to support this, and I just I think it was very important that Erin just added that little bit in there, because there has been a lot of work in this space, and those conversations that are happening with our sporting clubs, our local clubs, if they go well, we will watch them promote the direction as well as ourselves, and I think that's very important. It does tie in with bringing everyone along for the ride, and yeah, look, the big picture thinking here, and making sure we get to an outcome that the sporting clubs contributed to or even directed is very important to making this successful. Because as Councillor Tooley said, we are the centre when it does come to some sporting commitments and everything like that. I know people from the Adelaide Plains come into Gawler to play sport. I know people come from Playford to play sport. We are lucky with our location and the strong fundamentals that our sporting clubs have. So yeah, really building on that, I think is very important, and I'm really looking forward to some of this community consultation, seeing as it has already begun and it's already potentially being talked about. So yeah, look, happy to support this.
Thank you. Any other discussion? Councillor Hughes, you happy for me to put the motion? I'll put that motion. All those in favour, please raise your hands. It's carried unanimously. Thank you. Now we move on to 12.4.6. Councillor Hughes and then Councillor Fraser and then Councillor Tooley. Councillor Hughes.
Yeah, I'm happy to move this motion. We had a very passionate a presentation from Debbie. She is really keen to make us a start on this and get this going, and the group is also very keen to proceed. So I think it's very important that we allow this to go ahead, and we work with them for the future. And I think this is a good compromise. And it just allows for this group to actually get going, which they're just so keen to do. So I think it's important that we all support this motion.
I wasn't at this meeting, as I've said before, but I was really happy to see that this was the decision in the end. I could see that it had been a heated debate, but this just makes sense. There's a bus stop there for people. There's a school that can perhaps utilise it for teaching. There's toilets, and there's a huge new population over there at Evanston Gardens that can get involved in this as well. So I do think that it was a good decision in the end, so I was pleased to see that.
Thank you. Councillor Toole.
Just a couple of questions first, Mayor.
Yes.
We owe it to the public to explain why on page 119 we have a recommendation which you glanced over and went past. It's been advertised, the public have looked at that, and it's called item 7.2 community garden proposal. But you've glanced over that, and then we have a second one called the community garden proposal. Can you just explain to people why we have two and why you've not referred to 12.4.1?
Because the actual recommendation from the committee was 12.4.6. Is that not correct, Pat? That's correct. That was the actual recommendation that came up from the committee, which you're fully aware of because you were there. So the other recommendation didn't get up, but this one did. So you put this one up because that's the recommendation to the committee. Just no, you put it on. There we go.
Thank you. So, Mayor, given that the CEO and yourself vet these
no, I don't.
agendas,
no.
The CEOs, the CEOs? Okay.
No, the
So
CEO approves the agenda.
How was it that this got published then? How did 12.4.1 get published?
I don't have anything to do with that.
Could the CEO explain how that got published?
I think it was just a human error.
Well, you didn't do it, so let's ask the CEO.
Yes, it was human error.
Do you wish to speak?
Got a question first through you to Mr. Viney. The issue of being able to build on so-called floodplains, we were told it came up at the meeting, it was a considerable point. The people who presented to us said they actually wanted Goose Island, was their number one, but they said they were told they couldn't because you can't build on a floodplain. Mr. Viney, could you answer the question, can we build on a floodplain? And is it true we have buildings like the Salvos and many others built on the floodplain?
Mr. Viney?
Yeah, that is correct. Through the chair, development can occur in the floodplain. Obviously, there are caveats around development when it does occur in the floodplain, and certain precautions and measures and reports need to be produced to essentially support that.
Thank you. Follow-up, Mayor. I did ask this of Mr. Viney. Could you confirm that the salvos and the skate park infrastructure are lower in the floodplain than the top end of Goose Island where a community garden may be built?
They're different rivers. They're different rivers. That you can't compare the two. But I'll ask Mr. Viney.
Yeah, through the chair, I'd have to take that on notice. I don't know that detail.
Thank you. Do you wish to speak to the motion?
Yeah, one more question, Mayor. Mr. Viney, through you, Chair, to Mr. Viney. At the end of the street, I think it's 8th Street, where we have used that area for parking before, and there are 2 houses, which is where I think a community garden would go. Can you just confirm, my understanding is that you'd never get rushing water, you would get what's called ponding, which is a slow rising of the water.
So I'm going to answer that because as a long-term resident of Gawler, I've actually got photographs of Goose Island completely covered and the water is rushing. So there's your answer.
No, because I know the geographical answer and it's wrong. You're actually not correct.
No, I don't
and
think I am.
I have confirmed that.
I think I'm correct.
And the 2 houses there suffered only from ponding. It's not rushing. It rushes on the outside. You need to understand the geography of a river. I've taught geography, taught sustainability. The outside of a river
So you're
goes
answering
fast,
your own question then.
and the inside
Do you wish
is
to
slow.
speak to the motion?
It's ponding and
Are
depositing.
you wishing to speak to
Are you
the
going to
motion?
allow Mr. Viney to answer?
No, I've responded to your question.
Of course, okay. Well, I will speak now then. Members, you need to understand, I'll just put the clock on because I've got 5 minutes and I don't want to be cut off start. Okay. Members, and for the benefit of those that were not there, the people who presented, I asked this question of them at the beginning. What was your preferred site? And they said, Goose Island. I asked them, and I asked Linda, what was told? And they were told you can't build on a floodplain. So they gave up on that. I asked Linda whether she'd consulted with Mr. Viney. She said she hadn't. And we've established that you can build on a floodplain. We have built on the floodplain in Dead Man's Pass. We have shelters we built in there. They're lower down than Goose Island. We have built in Clonley. We've built down very low with a skate park infrastructure. Our caravan park is in a floodplain. We allowed for the building of the salvos on the floodplain. The other thing we were told was that the soil is toxic. Well, if the soil is toxic, none of us should be eating vegetables from down Virginia and that area because like the Nile, like the Mississippi and like the Gawler River floodplain, it is nourished by the floodwaters. And because we had a flood in 2018, one member would have us believe that there was so much toxic material coming down that it would be making the soil toxic. That is just not true. Goose Island is not toxic. The other thing we were told was that on Goose Island, there was a dump. Well, I had a chat with a Mr. Tom Nowak. Now, I don't know if you know Mr. Tom Nowak, but the Nowak family owned the flour wagon, which is now where there's a lawyer, and they grew all of their produce on Goose Island. The Nowak family were established in Gawler in 1914, I think. They bequeathed Goose Island to the council. I asked him about the toxicity. No toxicity. They actually sold loam from there, along with Dead Man's Pass. It was 2 of our loam pits. If you bought Gawler River loam, you bought it from Goose Island. A contractor called Davies, a friend of the Nowaks, when they stopped mining Gawler River loam, was invited to put building rubble in the lower northwest quadrant. And he said to me, you know what, Councillor Tooley, apart from the odd resident on 8th Street that snuck in an old washing machine, it was simply building rubble that local contractor Davies put in there, and then it was covered. And he took me, he said, I can take you there and show you where it is. And yet we had a member here tell us that there was this terrible dump and it was all toxic. It's just not true. And we have to say the truth in this chamber, because people will say things and make it sound like it's truth when it's not, and they use that to sway people. I asked Mr. Noack about the floods, and he said the worst flood ever was in the 80s. And he said the two houses at the end, they ponded. There was no rushing water. And like we do, when we ever get ponding in parts of Dead Man's Pass, we go in as a council, we hose off the footpaths, we hose off the bridges, we hose off the shelters, and no damage is done. And there's a very large flat block where we did some parking. Probably the most premium part. It's opposite one of the houses and next to the other house. And that has only ever ponded. Nothing would ever be swept away. The other thing you need to note, councillors, is this, that when the people presented said that Goose Island was their preferred, the next thing they called for was an amendment. And their amendment was, please do not put it at the back of the Evanston Gardens area. They said, please let us use the Humphreys, I think it's George Humphreys, Humphrey George's Park up Krieg Roadway. They said, if we can't have Goose Island, we would rather go there, but please do not put it at the Evanston Gardens. I asked them why, and I drove out there and checked it. There is no population to speak of, Councillor Fraser. It is mainly open space. And as the people recognise, a community garden should be central, should be where people can come out of their apartments or their high density living and share a real community. And Goose Island is their preferred place, and it's the only place. It will fail if it goes where the people don't want it, at the back of the Evanston Gardens facility. It is the dumbest move ever. They don't even want it. They will not put in an application. It will not happen out there. And we will be shown to be the absolute fools that we are.
That's actually not true.
He's laughing. You're not allowed. Councillor Koch, you apologise for laughing.
Okay.
Come on, Husey.
I'm going to move on. Any other discussion? Councillor Fraser has asked for leave of the meeting to speak again. Does the meeting give leave of the meeting for Councillor Fraser to speak again? Yes, you have leave.
Back in last time I was on council, so I'm not really sure of the year, I think it was about 2011 or 2012, I was actually asked by the community to get a community garden going. And I did a lot of work. We had a committee. We had procedures and policies written, and we were just trying to find somewhere to go. Our choice, and it was going to be run under the guidance of the community house so that we could get grants for it. Our choice was Goose Island. And at the time, we had the Noacks come in council, and I don't know which Noack it was, he doesn't live in Gawler anymore, but he came to council and he told us, sure, they grew flowers on there, but the northern end was used as a dump. So it was, well, it could be toxic. It wasn't tested, but it could have been toxic. And he was very, very clear on that. But then, and also flooding. If you're only going to go back to 1980, that's only 40 years ago. We've got to work on 50, 100-year floods, really. And it costs a lot of money to build a community garden. It's a lot of infrastructure. And if a flood was to come, it's not a building like the Salvos, it's just fencing and it's metal and it would just be washed away. And it's just not worth it. You just couldn't recoup that. And apart from that, then that all goes into the river system. So, you know, and as far as the skate park goes, I was on the skate park committee, and the skate park was actually moved. So it wasn't in its original position. It was actually moved so that it was on higher ground, and that was part of the skate park. So that's all I'd like to say. And also Evanston Gardens is a huge community. You've got all that development over the other side of Anklevale Road. It's enormous.
So thank you, Councillor. So we'll move over to Councillor Davies and Councillor Koch. Councillor Shanks, I noticed you've got your hand up. I might actually go because I think Nathan had his hand up first. So Councillor Shanks. been waiting patiently.
I just had a couple of questions through you, Mayor, for Ryan Viney, if I could. Given the typical structures a community garden would have, i.e., garden shed, raised garden beds, maybe a shelter, can you clarify for everyone's benefit the class of building that would mean, and what class of building you are allowed to build in a floodplain?
Mr. Viney?
Look, I'd have to take that one on notice. Obviously, the class of building is not my area of expertise. That's more of a building officer's perspective. So I'll have to take the class of building. But yeah, like I said previously, building in the floodplains is possible in certain circumstances. However, there are a number of checks and balances that would need to be put in place. You need to have a fairly detailed understanding of what infrastructure was going to be placed in the floodplain. And then there would also be a requirement to get a hydrology report, which looked at the extent of the flooding and how that structure or that piece of infrastructure would otherwise sit within that floodplain. And there's a whole raft of other considerations that would need to be taken into consideration about building the floodplain.
Sorry, follow-up question then, Mayor, if I can. I listened to the CCS debate, and there was comments thrown around that we can't build on a floodplain. I'll simplify it this way. If the building or structure is non-habitable, meaning that people are not living there, it's not a dwelling, that opens the door for structures to be built in a floodplain, does it not?
Doesn't it have to be above the 1 in 100-year flood level?
Like through the chair, I'd have to take that one on notice, but essentially it comes down to the type of structure. If it has open sides and it can allow the floodwaters to pass through it, if any structures of value are built above the flood level, 300 above the flood level, those types of things are taken into consideration. And of course, whether the structure is habitable would be another factor which would be taken into consideration when doing a full assessment.
Thanks, Mr. Viney. Yeah, that's fine. I'll wait to speak.
Any other? Now, Councillor Davis and Councillor Koch. And Councillor Howell.
So just a question, I just wanted to clarify the residents who were talking about the garden, has there been any follow-up with them since the last meeting? And are we clear on, if we were to go to Everton Gardens, whether they would accept it?
Erin?
Through the Mayor, we've obviously been in contact with Debbie and the group to make sure they understand the process that we're now going through. And my understanding in her recent conversation with Linda Weiss, is that we will be, after this is resolved, we'll be meeting with them to talk through the next stage of the process. So we've been in communication with them and they're just waiting for the outcome.
Councillor Koch?
Thank you. I'm not going to go through what I said at the open meeting, but I mean, the issue with contamination, when you have flooding, you get a lot of quite nasty stuff getting washed off roads, etc., asbestos, oils, etc., etc. And when it comes across an area, a pond, and actually settle. And the last thing we really want to do is have that flooded, contaminated water onto an area that you want to grow vegetables for a community group, especially with children. Yes, you can build in a floodplain, but it sounds like that it's got to be really over-engineered, and you don't really want to be putting things into an area that you know that are going to be washed away. Go down the creek, go down the river, tangle up with everybody else, and maybe do some damage. For example, if you say put a what do I call a seed container, things, one of those containers, for example, shipping containers, and it gets picked up, goes down, knocks a bridge over, who's responsible? So I'd be really concerned about the insurance that they'd have to need to, to actually to do anything there. Also, all the the analysis, the soil analysis, etc., see whether it is contaminated. But I do know that other areas in our town which were pug holes, where they actually took out different soils and whatever, were filled up with refuge. And for example, where the men's shed is, they're not allowed to dig into the soil because of that reason. And there's actually a house right near Gawler Central Footy Oval that had the same issue, where that was a pug hole. It was put, refuge was put in there, and they're required to actually pave over the whole site before they could build. So what we actually do is we actually say if there's a risk of contamination from this, what we do is we make sure that nobody actually digs up the soil and actually goes to it. So what you're proposing here at Goose Island is the exact opposite. We know that it's an area where it has been used for refuge, and you're actually asking to actually grow vegetables and fruits and whatever on a site that is potentially contaminated, when other areas we're saying you can't even dig in the soil. So it's actually really at odds. Just looking on that, for me, I'm quite happy to support this. I have said before, I think I've established two or three community gardens, and if you've got a strong community group, they will succeed. That's what really drives the community gardens. So you need good, healthy soil, and I suppose that's the basis of any horticulture. I mean, I've been a horticulturist for over 40 years. Basically, that's horticulture 101, is have a healthy, clean soil as your starting point, and that's what you need. So the last thing you really want to do is go into a site that's contaminated or potentially could be contaminated from flooding. So I'll be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Nathan Shank. Councillor Shanks.
As I said, I listened back to the CCS meeting. I know I need a bit more of a life to sit there and watch that while I'm at work, but hey, I listened to it because Councillor Davies said it got a little bit heated, so I thought, you know what, I'll have a listen. What I've heard tonight and what I heard on that night is still the same. There's a very, very good opportunity here to have a community garden central in our town. But the thing that seems to be the sticking point for some members is things that haven't been proven. They're based on facts that have never been ran to ground. We're saying that the potential is here, so let's go to the Evanston Garden one just in case. And then I'm also hearing councillors turn around and say, well, that's not where the community garden operators want to go. If they had to choose, they would have chosen the other one. But Goose Island was their preference. So now, to me, I'm going, well, we need to now run this to ground. It doesn't cost much to get some soil analysis done. We can do some bore logs. We can do some testing in the site. And if it is found that there is no toxins, then happy days. From a building point of view, if we're worrying about structures going down a river if it does flood in 100 years' time, well, there's building solutions for that. I can rattle them off for you right now if you like, but there's no point to doing that. You can have shelters that have a lot bigger, deeper footings. That's not a big deal. If we're worrying about heights, we can do raised garden beds. There are so many solutions to the problems I'm listening to, it's not funny. And because there's solutions to those problems, we owe it to the community garden members that are very, very keen about this, just to make sure that we run it all to ground on their first preference, not just turn around and say, no, you can't build in a floodplain, because that is a flat out lie. You can build in a floodplain. You just need to mitigate the risk. You mitigate the risk with appropriate building structures. You mitigate the risk with appropriate research, and you look into the site. And then if we get to a point where we've spent, let's say $2,000, let's say even $5,000, we do some investigation, and then we can come back for a reason to these very passionate people and say, this is why you can't build where you guys want. I can guarantee that those people will turn around and go, you know what, thank you very much for looking into all this on our behalf. Let's negotiate the next spot. But if we just want to push through this one and say, no, we're going to go here because we think it's right and we think there's a potential, I think that's just making a knee-jerk reaction without making sure we do our due diligence. We need to delve into where they want and give them the actual factual answers on why they can't build there, because you can't build in a floodplain doesn't work for a community garden. It does work if they came to us and said, you know what, we want to put a hotel. That does work, 100%. A shelter, raised garden beds. If you want to use the argument of a shipping container, which I haven't heard the community garden hosts saying they want to put a shipping container there. But if that is a problem, then you come up with suitable anchor points that you put in a location, or you build up the land, the 700 mil, and base prep it to make sure it's compacted enough to sit the container on top so it's not in the floodplain. There are so many solutions. If we want to advance with this and we want to push it through to the Evans Garden Library without running the other problems to ground, well, that's going to be your own doing. But I can't support this until we make sure we look into everything. So I hope councillors see the logic and see that we should be running a couple of other arguments to ground before we just react on an opinion that's being sold as fact.
Right. Okay. Councillor, has anyone else who'd like to speak? Or do you want to give permission to another person to speak again? He's sought leave, Councillor Tooley has sought leave to speak again. Does Councillor Tooley have leave to speak again? You do not have leave. No. Don't attack somebody else, actually. You just attacked Councillor Fraser. Okay. Who's next? Councillor Davies, I think you're next, and then Councillor Goldstone, and then Councillor Ballalonga. In that order. Thank you.
Yeah, so this was something that on the day was, we went through 3 versions of the motion, actually. There's a couple on the agenda, but there's another one. Basically, the situation was that the members originally had come to an agreement that Evanston Gardens was their preferred spot out of the available spots. But at the meeting requested Humphrey George, which that one didn't Humphrey George Reserve for reasons of just better access, being in the centre of a community and a few other things, and that one didn't make it. And then so finally it came to this one. And look, I think there's options. Oh, and there was the Goose Island, which was Ian asked them about the Goose Island, and they said, "Oh, well, we looked into that, but yeah, it was not recommended." And I think, you know, it is something that we can do on a legal level. I think the concern for the community group is more on a financial level there, because this is not, council is not the one funding a community garden. They're funding their community garden and asking for a space. So if we give them something that's difficult to work with or that requires, you know, an extra large amount of setup cost, then it's going to be, you know, thousands more for the community group who's trying to set it up. So that's my concern around something that's, you know, even if it's possible, whether or not it's something that the community group would be able to afford. So yeah, look, my preference was probably Humphrey George, but otherwise I'm happy to go with this. This was something that they chose. They seem to be happy to go ahead with it.
Councillor Goldstone and then Councillor Ballard.
Yeah, we mustn't lose sight of the fact that this site was their original preferred and agreed site. They then looked to Humphrey George, as Councillor Davis just said, but that was strategically wasn't suitable. The report spoke strongly in favour of this site, and we need to remember that not everything has to always be in the centre of the town. There is a big population in Evanston Gardens, Leander Waters, the whole area around there has got a lot of people out there. So, you know, sometimes it's better to look outside of the main centre. I'll be supporting this, and I think it's good work.
Councillor Balwinga.
Yeah, this is a question through you, Mayor, to probably Ryan. Wasn't there a dam built called the Bruce Estic Dam to fix our floodplain, our flood problems? Because I can't remember it flooding after that was built. So, yeah, the North Parra is called something like the Bruce Estic.
The Bruce Estic Dam was built in about 2001, 2002, and it was built as a flood mitigation dam for the North Parra, not the South Parra. The issue is we've got two rivers, so that was actually built to address some of the issues coming down through the North Parra. And there has been a flood since that, and that was in 2005. I've got photographs of that. And then, of course, the most recent one, which wasn't so bad, and that was about a 1 in 20 flood in 2016. So it has flooded since. Bruce Estic Dam did a very good job in 2016. I might have, yeah. Councillor Tooley.
Through you, Mayor, to Mr. Viney. Am I right? It's 8th Street that comes to the end where the houses are?
Yes, that's correct.
8th Street, and they're sort of, if you're coming down 8th Street, it's a bit offset. There's one a bit further down, and the ones on what I call the western side stop a little bit earlier, and that's where the flat block is, which is where a community garden would go, which was their preference. My question is, though, if you just come back along, Mr. Viney, there's a group of flats which are 2 metres below that vacant block of land, and yet they exist. Are they legally existing in that area? They're obviously lower down.
They've been built a long time. I might ask you to take no notice, Mr. Viney. Yeah, thank you.
Could I ask my last question? Mr. Viney, can you confirm the 2 houses that I'm talking about, which is where the community garden would be, have never, ever, ever had items washed away? They've only had, at the worst, ponding, no rushing, just ponding, stable, stagnant water that recedes.
So Mr. Viney would not have that information. You can take whatever notice and provide a response at a later date.
It's relevant to tonight, though, Matt.
He can take the notice. He hasn't got that information. So any other discussion? Councillor Hughes, you want to close the debate?
Yes, please. Poor Debbie is listening to this debate and pulling her hair out, I think. She actually stayed up and listened last Tuesday, hoping that we were going to get to this as well. This group really just wants to get on with this site and really get on. It was their original choice, then they changed Evanston Gardens and that wasn't suitable. So they want this site. They want to get going. This site works for them. It's got the bus stop, it's got the toilets, it's got infrastructure. It's a big group. They want to get going. This motion allows it to proceed and get going so these mad keen gardeners can have a site. So please support this motion. Please support Debbie and this really good group. It's really important that this site goes on.
Stop, Councillor Tooley. It's wrapping up the debate. Keep going, Councillor Hughes. Keep going.
I don't know if you've actually spoken to her, Councillor Tooley. Yeah, I don't believe you. Also, soil tests, especially for heavy metals and things.
Councillor Tooley, stop interrupting.
And about $7,000 for soil tests for heavy metals. It's really expensive process to do, and that's actually a cheap lot of testing for soil is $7,000, and from there that's just a really baseline test. So once you start testing for metals, it is really expensive. This group just wants to get going, so please support this motion.
I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against, please raise your hand if you are against. The motion is carried. Councillor Tooley has called a division. Please stand. All those in favour, please stand, and I will call your name out. All those in favour are Councillor Davies, Kosh, Goldstone, Hughes, Deputy Mayor Samble and Councillor Fraser. All those against are Councillor Shanks, Councillor Valalonga, Councillor Tooley and Councillor Little. The motion is carried. Congratulations, Debbie Nelson. I have on multiple occasions. It's really quite draining, Councillor Tooley. If you could just behave yourself. You really are out of order tonight. Councillor, Deputy Mayor Samble, do you want to put forward a motion to extend the meeting?
Thank you, Mayor Karen. I'd like to move a motion. We have some very important issues here, and staff have worked very hard to put all this up to us, especially to do with the land and TV, radio towers and that, to extend it until 11 o'clock.
Thank you. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Little, you happy to second? All those in favour? Keep your hands up, please. The motion is carried. Thank you. Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Okay, so moving right along, that concludes the recommendations from the CCS committee. Once again, congratulations, Debbie Nelson, if you're still listening. External bodies and your committee. External bodies reports, we'll just work through these. Reconciliation Action Plan, we note the meeting notes. Councillor Little and Councillor Hughes seconded. All those in favour? Carried. Thank you. Moving on to Climate Emergency Action Plan Working Group, moved by Councillor Fraser, seconded by Deputy Mayor Samble. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Moving on to, that concludes the External Bodies report. We now have questions on notice by Councillor Tooley. Has that been circulated? The responses, Kate, if you'd like to hand them around. The response has been provided, and that will be included in the minutes. The question and the answer will be provided in the minutes. Thank you. Are there any questions without notice, councillors? There none. Motions on notice. Now, Councillor Tooley, we have a motion here. Do you wish to present your motion, please, on boundary reform? We are on page 126. 126.
Yeah, let me just get my clock going. Okay. The reason I moved this motion is because I was very troubled at the meeting when the report was presented. All of us were told that we were going to have 2 levels of consultation, and these were very heavily marketed to the community. At no point did they ever say only the voice or the majority of the voice of the Gawler people will form the basis for the report. In fact, I went to the 2 public meetings, and a clear majority of the people at those, and definitely the majority of people who spoke, were people from outside of Gawler. And they spoke because it was advertised, come and have your say. And so they came and they spoke. And they spoke extensively, raising their concerns. Everything from the fact that the funding wasn't made clear, the cost wasn't made clear, the upward pressure on their rates, rate guarantee, all of those things were raised. And we had people on the platform from the actual tribunal, as well as our CEO and our mayor, answering questions. The next thing we did, we'd agreed to do this, that in that level of consultation, we would put out a survey. And again, once again on the survey, nowhere in the survey did it say that it's mainly the voice of the Gawler people that will be put forward in a report. People went to that survey in good faith on the understanding that they were giving feedback on the questions that were asked. And they gave feedback. And then we had people who presented to us, and we had, I know that some of those people were strategically invited to come to that meeting, but there were others that came to the meeting because they saw it advertised, the council meeting. And one person in particular, with a very detailed understanding and analysis of surveys, pointed out to us two major problems with the survey. One of them was that a person could give multiple hits on the survey. So members of families and others could give multiple. Therefore, anyone wanting to do that would skew the numbers. The second thing they found out was that the survey did not request, or you could not tell the truth about your postcode. So they were some of the facts that we were told. When I read the report, and I read it with great detail, and I always prepare for meetings very, very thoroughly. I know that annoys some people, but that's just my job as a councillor. I read, I consult, I make notes, I have them all here. I come along to the meeting prepared. And I said to the people who were on the Zoom link, I said, why is it that in your report there is a disproportionate representation? And I said to them, it appears to me the voice of the Gawler residents is strong in your report, but what seems to be missing is the voice of the people in the associated areas that are affected, but they're not living in Gawler. And their answer to me shocked me. This is a company that we paid, what, $25,000 to, and we paid to them to be an independent, at arm's length. They were meant to be independent at arm's length analysis, so they're devoid of criticism. What comes back is a pure, impartial assessment of what was put in the surveys and what happened at the community consultation. And to my shock, they said they were told when they presented their report by the administration, which I presume means CEO NAP, they were told to remove big sections of their report. I doubled down and asked them, and they said, yes, the sections that would have been what you call, Councillor Tully, the voice of the people from outside the area, they were removed. I was told that CEO Nat later spoke to a journalist when questioned on that and told the journalist
30 seconds.
that it was, because of the stage that it was at, it was most appropriate to only share the voice. Now, I have lodged a formal complaint, and I'm going to follow, I've been invited to follow that up with the boundaries reform, because that report was not an honest and impartial report.
Stop.
It was a doctored report.
You can't say that about...
I can say that.
No, you can't.
What bit can I say?
I'll just refer to the CEO. Was that a dishonest report? Is that what... Is that a... Turn it on here. Was it a dishonest report?
Well, I'm actually just appalled by Councillor Tully's comment about a supposed conversation that supposedly I had with a journalist, which is just ridiculous. And for you to make such a comment in this forum is you know, just crazy.
So
and to
was
suggest
the report a dishonest report?
And to suggest by Councillor Tully that the report is not independent, and I look forward to Mr Barrett having an opportunity to provide some detailed responses once Mr Tully finished presenting his motion, which the administration has provided responses to Councillor Tully in this regard and clearly documented that what Councillor Tully is presenting is just without any substance or any foundation. So once Mr Tully finishes his presentation, he's referencing to the motion. I look forward to Mr Barrett being given an opportunity to go into some detail.
Okay, all right. You've got about 10 seconds left, Councillor Tully, if you wish to avail yourself of that. Do you wish to finish your...
Yes, see, truth is very important. Shut up, Councillor Koch, please. Truth is very important. And I can get that journalist, I can get the journalist to give that statement.
Okay. Your 5 minutes is
Because
up.
that happened at the end of the meeting. That's provable.
Is up. 5 minutes is up. Okay, you've spoken. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Vallelonga, you wish to second? You wish to second the motion? Yep. Is that a yes? Okay. Thank you. Now, Mr. Barrett, do you wish to make any comment on some of those statements?
Yeah, so through the chair, a couple of points. First of all, the purpose of the consultation was undertaken to garner the majority view from the town of Gawler residents as to whether we should proceed to lodge a proposal to the Boundaries Commission for the Boundaries Commission to investigate the borders of Gawler in accordance with our proposal. The advice from the Boundaries Commission earlier in the year that has been reported to Council a couple of times was that the consultation purpose was for that, the majority voice of the town of Gawler residents in terms of lodging the proposal to seek an investigation. We were open with our consultation processes and enabled people outside the town of Gawler to provide feedback, because part of the process is also to provide that voice into the Commission, and that will be done as part of the Stage 2 proposal. So the Commission will receive the report as presented by Square Holes, which actually had in the first few pages of the report, as members are aware, all of the responses, not just the town of Gawler. The section that Councillor Tooley is referring to was the town of Gawler responses highlighted, so it made it easier for members to understand what the majority of the voice for the local government area of town of Gawler was saying, and that was in support of lodging that. The changes made between the original report provided for Square Holes and that report was literally to emphasise the town of Gawler response, not the overall response, because it was the town of Gawler response we're seeking, and that was on the advice of the Boundaries Commission to understand that. So that was why segment was changed. There weren't segments removed from the report, and I've been very clear on that. There weren't sections in the original that had other responses by demographic area. That was not part of the original report. The original report was just an overall statement. So we wanted to elevate that town of Gawler voice as per the Commission's request.
Thank you. So discussion, Councillor Hughes.
I want to move a formal motion that this motion be put.
Do I have a seconder for that? Councillor Fraser. So we have a mover and a seconder the motion be put. I'll put that motion, that the motion be put. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. Please raise your hands. The motion, all those against, it is carried. Thank you. We will now put this motion. If you can show the motion, Kate, so everyone can see it, please. Kate, if you can just scroll up. That's it, lovely. I'll put that motion. All those in favour of the motion, please raise your hands. All those against, the motion is lost. Councillor Tooley has called a division. All those in favour of the motion, please stand. All those in favour, please stand. I'll call Councillor Shanks. Yes, you're in favour. Is that correct, Councillor Shanks? Yes. Councillor Shanks, Councillor Vallelonga, Councillor Tooley. All those against, Councillor Davies, Kosh, Goldstone, Little, Hughes, Deputy Mayor Samble and Councillor Fraser. The motion is lost. Thank you. Oh, okay. Oh, really? Oh, that's no good. Oh, okay. I hope all is well, Jim. Hope all is okay. Good night, Jim. Okay, so that concludes motions on notice. Motions without notice. Confidential reports. We've got to confidential reports. That's incredible. Okay. Just quite surprised. I didn't think we'd get there. Okay. We do have the two items that were moved that need to be dealt with first, and that is the Adelaide Cemeteries Authority, Paternoster Road, or if you wish, Council, you can change that order if you wish to, if we want to talk about something else. But I'm happy to go with that. Are people happy with that process? Just keep moving through. So what we're dealing with is item 6.1. 6.1, which is the Adelaide Cemeteries Authority, which is the first item in our previous packages from last week's meeting. And there is a recommendation, councillors, to go into confidence to discuss this matter. Are you happy to move that way, Councillor Hughes? Do I have a second? Do you wish to speak?
Just briefly, I think it's very important because it does disclose financial, commercial information about the whole process. So I think it's important at this stage that it be kept in confidence. At a later stage, and of course, it will come out of confidence, I'm sure.
Do I have a seconder? Councillor Deputy Mayor Sample. All those in favour? All those against? It is carried. Thank you.